Hey, massage friends. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Massage Therapy Podcast. If you're new here, welcome and enjoy. Heather here, and I've got Nicole beside me.
Hey.
We got a really special podcast here today. We're not the only ones in the room right now. We have two other guests that we're pretty excited about.
We are. You introduce them, Heather.
All right. Everybody might know them already. They are Mark and Amanda from the well-known Two Massage Therapists podcast. Welcome, both of you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. We really just reached out to them because we wanted to like flip the mic on them, get a little bit more of their background, but also like well, you know, we've picked out bits and pieces like we've said along the way listening to all your podcasts, but we're like we really want to ask them more about that, or like what deeper into whatever it is, like your background, how you got to the Con Ed, how you all those decisions and what the first days looked like. Like we really just wanted to pick your brains.
I'm scared. I don't know. Are you scared?
I'm not scared at all. I like talking about me. Go ahead.
I feel a little uncomfortable. I'm not going to lie.
We have a conversation with you guys outside of your podcast. Like, we'll listen
you don't
to
know
them,
about the conversation that we have with you.
What did Mark say? I don't know about this. Or
I need to ask him about this.
Yeah. Our relaxation episode was solely based on an episode I listened to you guys. And I was like, I need to email him right now. It was really funny. It made me laugh, actually. Yeah. Not that we have any trouble, but I was just like, what is happening? We need to talk about it.
Yeah. So I think it's just been brewing. So welcome. Thanks again.
Yeah, this is good. This is good.
Well, let's just jump right into it then. Introduce yourselves. Let us know more about you.
Sure. Okay. Well, hey everyone, it's Amanda, and I've been a massage therapist for 9 years. This past March marked 9 years, and before that, I was working as a manager at a women's fitness club that I started working at when I was 17. So I walked in there and asked for a job because I would go there very regularly to work out. And I wanted a job at the front desk. And they said, sure. Would you consider being I think it was called a floor coach? And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like, what are you asking me to do? And they said, basically, when new members sign up, you're going to take them around and teach them how to use the equipment and just, give them an orientation to the gym. I was like, you guys lost your fucking mind? Like, I am 17 and no, I don't know anything about this. But anyway, I took a job there at the front desk and then realized how much fun it was going to be on the floor. So I kind of approached them again, like, yeah, I'm thinking I can do that floor coach job.
What did you think would have been fun on the floor?
I don't know. I felt like instead of me sitting behind the front desk, I could actually go and help people.
Have you guys ever worked at a gym before?
Not a gym, but I've worked a front desk many times.
Okay, so you've worked at a gym as front desk?
Yeah, front desk.
Front desk staff at the gym looks like you have the best job ever. Because I've been a personal trainer and I've done the floor work stuff too. And I'm always jealous of the fucking front desk people.
Well, I mean, we had fun. Don't get me wrong. We had fun at the front desk. But I was really actually interested in fitness. And it was sort of like that moment that I was like, I kind of want to do this. Like, I kind of want to even level up to be a personal trainer. So I started as a floor coach and I started researching on my own and reading fitness magazines and just learning. And eventually they had a training program through that gym where you could become a personal trainer. So it was essentially CanFit Pro's program ripped off. I guess I can say that now because that club no longer exists. But it was basically like I got trained sort of as if I took CanFit Pro and there was, sort of an exam by one of the other staff and blah, blah, whatever. So I became a personal trainer. And that's what made me want to go into kinesiology because I was already doing it, got my kin degree. And after I got my kin degree, I didn't know what to do. So I came back here, took another job training at the same club and was very quickly promoted to manager. After doing that for a few months, I realized how much I hated the business side of fitness. Like I hated the selling. I hated the manipulation. I hated it. But I still really liked the aspect of educating people. I liked working with bodies. Like all of that made sense. So in the interim, I was going to go back to school for occupational therapy. In the interim, I took a job working behind a desk again at a private career college that was just starting a massage therapy program. And to fast forward through this, that's where I met Mark. Never went to university to get my master's degree. Decided to take massage therapy instead.
So that was the original plan, was a master's?
Yes. So I was actually in the process of doing applications for University of Toronto, and I was going to go into occupational therapy. So my intent was to stay with this private career college for a year or so because the pay was good, the location was good. I thought, I'll make some money and I'll go back to school. And somewhere in there, I was going to travel for a few months.
Always.
And
where were you going to travel to?
And then I was going to do something similar to what my high school best friend did. She did like a round the world tour. So she went to Fiji and New Zealand and Australia,
like
and then she did So my intent was to do that.
Nothing about that.
But then I met that guy, right?
The same guy's like, nothing about that seems
exactly. Well, anyway, so that I was going to do occupational therapy.
Too while you're
No.
Okay, I'm just wondering. I don't know.
But once I found out about massage therapy, I was not a regular massage client. I know that, Heather, when you came on our podcast, it was your experience through massage that kind of deepened your interest. I knew nothing about massage therapy really because that wasn't something that we did. My mother still probably has never had a massage. No, that's a lie. I've treated her one time.
I'll treat your mom.
Commentary.
Yeah, I'll treat your mom.
Peanut
she
gallery.
might have to sign a consent form for sensitive areas.
Stop talking.
Kidding.
Anyway,
I'm kidding.
So the
Not
school
kidding.
I was working at, things were going really well, and I started to like it there, which is kind of scary because I had plans to go back to school to travel, but I enjoyed the environment. I liked the people I worked with, and I was actually really into the job. And then somebody, this was the nail in the coffin. Somebody said to me, "Do you know if you're an employee here, you can take any program for free as long as you continue to work full time?" I was like, "Okay,
done.
Now I've got some thinking to do." So
Did you ever consider the PSW program?
I did not. Really, of all the programs that were offered at this private career college, massage therapy would have been the only one that I was interested in.
It was very much entry-level medical.
Yeah, it was not. Right. If I was going to do occupational therapy, I wasn't going to change my mind and become a lab technician. Not that there's anything wrong with being a lab technician, but it wouldn't have made sense for me, right? So I decided to go talk to Mark. We didn't know each other because we didn't really work in the same departments, but I talked to Mark and I said, "Tell me about the career. Like, I don't want to hear about the school because I don't give a shit about that. I have a university degree. I understand school. Tell me about the career." And the way he described it, like, I was sold in literally like 10 seconds. I'm like, this just makes so much sense for me. I still get to work with people's bodies. I still get to do the education piece and I get to make my own hours and, possibly be self-employed. Like, all of these things, I was just getting so excited. So I went and told the VP at the school, "This is what I want to do." He essentially laughed in my face because he's like, "So you're going to work 8 hours a day. You're going to go to school 5 hours a day. You're going to study. You're going to do all these. You're going to do this for 2 years."
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And you did it.
And you did.
I did. I got really unhealthy, but I did it.
Hey, man, for free, why not?
Yeah. I mean, I say at that time, I think the program was $20,000. I don't know what it is now, but I mean, if I'm going to not have to pay $20,000 to go to school, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this.
That's fine. Yeah.
Right?
Who needs sleep?
Exactly.
It was crazy though, because we lived roughly, by the time I started, I'm saying we, so I'm jumping ahead. So this was early 2008 that I had this conversation with the VP. And because you have to be an employee for a full year to take advantage of that benefit of getting school for free, I wasn't going to be able to start until winter of 2008 because I only started working there, I think, fall of 2007. So I said, okay, that's fine. So I worked there for the year with the intent of going to massage school. In that time, Mark and I got very friendly. And by mid-2008, we were talking about moving in together. So, well, I mean, it really kind of fucks up my plans, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I was like, shit. No, not even the travel. It was like, how can I now register for massage program when I'm dating one of the instructors? Not even just one of the instructors, the guy who designed the curriculum. I was like, oh man, okay, what do I do? So we talked to the VP, and I don't know if you've ever listened to Sue Rue's podcast, but she basically, Mark filled me in that it wasn't the way I thought it went. But we talked to him and I said, I told Mark I wanted to be honest. Let's let the school know that we're dating because things can go really badly otherwise. So we did, and they said the only way that this can work is if Mark transfers to, they had 3 campuses. Right. If Mark transfers to another campus, you can go to school here. And so I thought it was as easy peasy as them saying to Mark, what do you want to do? And him saying yes. Apparently they said, are you crazy? You're going to like uproot your whole job for a girl? Is she worth it? Are you nuts?
And that was the conversation that had.
And the rest is history.
Yeah. So then November, December, whatever it was a weird start date. It was like late in the year. I started massage therapy school. And for the next 22 months, I went to class from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. I worked from 1 p.m. till 8:30, just didn't really take any breaks, ate lunch at my desk. And
is it lonely eating lunch at your desk by yourself?
You know what? I was so busy. I don't even know if I had time to think about if I was lonely. I was so busy.
Yeah.
And I would finish work. Did I look lonely?
Yeah, you did.
How do you know? You got transferred.
Yeah, I'm just saying. You look lonely.
Well, anyway.
No one there to tell you if you have anything stuck in your teeth.
Oh,
like,
that's true. I kept a mirror at my desk. I'm a girl. Come on.
Sorry.
And then once I graduated, I had been promoted by that time to the director of admissions at the college. So I hung around for a bit thinking like, let's see where this goes. And after a few months realized like, wait a second, I just killed myself for 22 months to get this diploma and get this license. I got to go be a massage therapist. That's a really long backstory, but yeah, that's it.
No, that's great. Before we put Mark in the hot seat, describe like maybe how your practice style or what your practice would look like now.
In the beginning or now?
Both, if you want.
So the first place that I rented space out of, it was a chiropractic clinic, and it was very close to where we lived. So I was renting a room there, and I liked her style. It was very much like the way she described it, I think was like a family wellness practice. So she had regulars that would come in for regular maintenance. So when I first started out, I wasn't working with a lot of injuries or anything really particular. I had one group of clients who were really like young professionals. So I started work there at 7:00 in the morning because they'd come in before going to the office. And then I had a lot of very active seniors. That was sort of my practice, but it was all maintenance and wellness and just making sure to keep them healthy. And then over the years, I guess it's sort of stuck that way, but I've put more of a focus on actually like looking for where there might be issues. And in the beginning, it was less important to me. Like it was important, but it was less important for me to, figure out things and, do so many assessments and do so much remedial exercise. Like I always did it. I was actually, at one clinic I worked at, I was known as sort of like the fitness and remedial exercise girl because I was probably the only therapist there that really put a lot of
in the personal training background.
Yeah, and that I was probably the only therapist that put a lot of emphasis on that. It wasn't when you booked an appointment with me, you knew you weren't just jumping on the table for 60 minutes. Mm-hmm. And so I think now I just do maybe more of that, but still very much family wellness. Yeah. Different from Mark.
Yes, I know you two are very different.
Yeah.
Your turn, Mark.
Where did it all start?
Where did it all start? Massage therapy. I went to York University. I finished York. That was like, when did I graduate? 1999.
Let's look at this on the wall. 1999, yeah.
1999.
My eyes don't work.
I was dating a very lovely female throughout the second half of university, and we got really friendly, and she's like, I think I want to do massage therapy when I'm done here. We were both at the York University kin program, and then so she was supposed to start in September, and this is when CCMH was Yonge Street, like Mel Lastman Square area, like Yonge and Shepherd area, and they had this thing where if you wanted to take the program, you had to come in and do an intro course, and that intro course was, I think, 1 weeknight and then like a weekday or something like that. So she's like, will you come with me to this thing on this weekday? And I was like, okay, cool. I'm your boyfriend and I don't understand massage and I don't want you touching up some other guy. So so I'm gonna come with you. So I went with her and I was like, this is kind of cool. I wouldn't mind doing something like this, but then it never panned out for me. Like I never thought of it beyond that. September comes around. She's like, I'm not going to go to school anymore. I'm like, well, why aren't you going to school? She's like, I thought about it and I can't touch smelly people. I can't touch hairy people. Like I can't do that for work. That would drive me insane. And then we split ways and massage kind of always sat in the back of my head for a little bit. So in that meantime, I was working as a personal trainer, working as a kinesiologist. I was doing a whole bunch of stuff in the fitness industry. Like at that time, I think I was like writing for a fitness magazine. It was called Personal Trainer Canada. It went out. It was a industry magazine that went out to like all the health clubs in Canada. It was like an internal magazine kind of thing. Yeah, that was kind of cool. And I was doing that kind of stuff. And then just one day, well, it's not really one day. Do I tell the full story, the real story?
Tell the full story.
Do it. We want it.
Do it.
If this is PG, you might want to.
Oh no, we're
good.
Like we were talking before, massage Heather and outside Heather. Outside Heather wears like a sailor, so
Okay,
go.
cool.
All right.
We're good. Yeah.
So I ended up dating someone else, and we were engaged, and then our engagement went to shit. And then I found myself loving alcohol because of it. So I was drunk for quite a while. So this happened, I don't know, early summer maybe? No, late spring. And so I was hammered from spring until the following like February. Like I'm talking daily drunk kind of thing, functional alcoholic type of thing. And I would only surround myself with people that would allow me to drink like this and la 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 la. So I have a happy place that I go to in Florida. It's called New Smyrna Beach, Florida. I'm like, okay, it's Christmas break. I need to get the hell out of here. So I'm going to go to Florida. Plus, at that time, my folks had a place in Florida, so I got a place to go. So we go down to Florida, me and my buddy. And then I also have a personal training client, a kind of wealthy you and they have a place in Miami, and they're down for the Christmas holidays, and they're like, come down to Miami. We'll pay for your hotel room. You got to make sure I work out every day, and then we're good. So I do the drive down to Miami. It's about 3 hours away from where we're staying. Now I'm in this hotel room with my buddy, and so every day I'm still getting hammered. Like it's bad. I'm getting hammered like crazy. So one morning I find myself down at the pool bar. And I'm just drinking a lot of beer because it's early morning. Like, I'm not drinking hard stuff. It's early morning. So I'm just drinking.
Morning
naturally,
beers.
it's morning.
Yeah,
Morning
naturally,
beers.
right?
Like shower beers.
So I'm drinking a whole bunch of Coronas. And I wouldn't let the bartender take them away, the empties. I'm like, I want to know how many I've had. And so I'm 11 into it at this point.
God.
And it's like 11 in the morning. Like, I've been sitting there.
An hour.
Yeah.
I've been sitting there for probably about an hour. So I'm like hammered already. And my buddy's a little concerned. He comes down. He sees me at the bar with these Corona bottles lined up. And he's like, you're an idiot. And he's like, okay, I understand what you're going through right now. But realistically, what are you going to do when you go back? Like, you can't keep doing this. You've been drunk since fucking spring. Like, this has to stop. And in a drunken stupor, I said, I'm going to go to massage school. I'm going to go find a place where I can meet a lot of girls.
Because those things match.
Well,
Absolutely.
massage school has tons of girls. Right? There was 35 people in my class, and there were 3 dudes.
Yep.
And I was like,
the odds are in your favor.
Yeah, so
You want to hear the best part? He never dated any
I
of those
didn't
girls
date-
in
I
massage
didn't
school.
I didn't date any of those girls in massage school.
I'm not gonna lie, the one that I thought I would maybe like, I'm like, that guy's cute because I started, not just to take off the tangent a bit.
Yeah.
We always had to do for ours a weekend class before you started. My weekend class was before I started dating the guy I'm dating, and I was like, ooh, that guy's really cute. It turned out he was the only gay guy in our class.
You pick out the only gay guy.
You're gorgeous though, but let's be friends. Sounds good. I'm okay with that. But anyway, sorry, Mike.
Yeah, so and then I came back in January. I jumped on my dial-up because that's how long ago it was. I was already familiar with CCMH, and then when it was the first place that popped up on my Google search, I'm like, let me go to CCMH, and I called them up. They had an advanced standing program at the time, so you could have done it in 1 year if you had a health science background. So I called them up. I'm like, hey, I'm a kinesiologist. Can I do this in 1 year? And they said, just bring in your transcripts and everything else. So I went for the interview, brought my transcripts, and they're like, ooh, you've been out of school for 5 years.
Oh.
Like you're just right under the cutoff. So
It doesn't matter that you had been working in the field all
They
that
did.
time.
Yeah.
I guess that's their policy, right?
Experience.
So exactly. I'm okay. So now I'm thinking, okay, so they offered me this. They said you can still be exempt from these science courses that we would have just exempted you from anyway, but you can challenge them. You can just write the exams for them. And I was thinking to myself, do I want to now I got to go brush up on some stuff to write an exam or all of these exams. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to just take the classes. I'm in no rush anyway. Like I'm still trying to get sober. So I'm like, I don't care what happens. So I'm just going to take the classes and I'll be fine. So it ended up being like a breeze. Like, so then they're like, come back, okay, next week, and then we'll enroll you. I'm like, that's it? That's all there is to it? They're like, can you afford it? I'm like, yeah. She's like, do you need to apply for like student loans or anything? I'm like, no, I'll bring a check and tell me what I owe.
Yeah.
And then we'll go from there. And that's what happened. And I was like, this is how easy it is to get into massage school. I just walk in and I say I have money, and they're like, yeah, they're like, start.
Basically,
So then I started in CCMH that spring. I think it was like the beginning of May, and that was it.
Well, I'm gonna be honest. Any post-secondary, if you can walk in with a check like that, they're gonna be like, "Yeah, we don't really care. Here you go. We'll take your money, and we'll. You want education here?
Exactly.
Pretty much.
You have to pass, so it's up to you now.
Exactly.
We got your money, right?
Exactly. Oh,
so, what were the first little bit of like what your practice looked like, and how is it different then to now?
So when I first started, I was in massage school, and I have a first cousin of mine. We're really close. And he was in his second year of chiropractic college when I first started massage school. So we were going to finish at the same time. And we decided when I started massage school, like, let's open a clinic. And that's what we did. As soon as I finished school and he finished school, a friend I was working at a health club in Richmond Hill, and a buddy of mine owns it. And we're just like, why don't we open a clinic here? We know the people, they love us. We'll probably give us dirty cheap rent, and we've got clientele just sitting here, and I know them all already. So this is like a no-brainer, and that's exactly what we did. He finished first, I finished second. He started up there. I helped him build it, and as soon as I got my papers that I was registered, we started right away. And that was all there is to it. And then I had an opportunity to teach. That was like 2 years into me having my own clinic. I always loved the idea of teaching, especially when I was at CCMH, and I was like, because I have a background in this shit, I was like, I can do a better job. Like, it really solidified it one day when I was in class, and one of the instructors, everyone loved her. I didn't like her at all. And we kind of just got into like, we were butting heads on therapeutic approach on stuff, and she wasn't budging, and I couldn't figure out why she wasn't budging at all. I'm like, you should be a little bit more open-minded than what's going on here. And that was the day that I was like, I'm going to come back for your job one day. And then I was always looking for teaching jobs. And one came up when I was 2 years into having my clinic, and that was the school that Amanda was talking about. They didn't have a massage therapy program yet. They had the curriculum and everything. They didn't have it started yet. And the fellow that I did my interviews with, he's like, okay, job's yours. And then he walked me into this empty room, which would be the massage room. He's like, go ahead. I'm like, what do you mean, go ahead? He's like, I don't know, make this happen. I'm like, what do you mean make this happen? He's like, well, what do we need? Tell me what I need.
If you build it, they will come.
I don't know what I need. So I'm like, I just get everything. He's like, do everything you want. Do anything you want. Go get all the equipment that you think you need to get. Go do this. And then I was like, okay, cool. Then he gave me the curriculum. He's like, can I see the curriculum? He gave me the curriculum. I'm like, can I redo this? Because this is really bad. And he's like, go ahead. Do whatever you want. And that was all there is to it. And then I did that at one campus. And then the same thing happened months later at another campus. He walked me into a big empty room and he says, you want to do this again? I was like, fuck yeah. So now the teaching's starting to escalate, right? Now I was teaching here part-time, but now I'm teaching here part-time and here part-time, and then I've got my own clinic going on. And then now they're adding class after class, and I'm like, oh, okay, this is really not fair to my chiropractor cousin partner, because I'm never there anymore. And so we had to hire another massage therapist and everything else. And so it just ended up being that I started teaching more than treating at my own place. And so I just had my cousin buy me out, and he stayed on there for a little bit. I started teaching full time, and then I went and got a part-time massage job at this really shitty rehab clinic that only did MVAs, but they were fabulous because they paid me cash at the end of every day that I was there. So I would go in there, I would bang out 16 half-hour treatments, 8 hours straight, and the guy would just fucking write me a massive check at the end of the day. I'm like, thank you, I'll see you again next week.
Oh my gosh.
And then I taught around that. So yeah.
You were busier than I was, apparently.
Yeah.
And you know what? One of my first memories of you, before we really knew each other, I'm going to make a confession on your podcast. Many years ago, I was a smoker. When I worked at this school, I was a smoker because everybody was. At that office, everybody smoked. And it was our excuse to get away from our desk for 5 minutes. Yeah. So one of my first memories of Mark is I was standing outside with another guy that we worked with having a cigarette, and Mark appears from out of nowhere. Like, he came from across the street. There was a convenience store, and he's walking up and he's got this bag in his hand, and he asked me for a smoke, and I gave him a smoke, and out of this bag, he pulls out a Snickers bar, and he's like, this is lunch. And I thought he was joking. So I started laughing, and he's like, no, I'm not kidding. I got another one in here.
That satisfies you. That's what the commercial says.
Absolutely. You turn into a different person when you
He had 2 Snickers bars for lunch.
Yeah.
And that cigarette you bummed from me.
Of course. That's the way it goes. Yeah.
So at what point did you were a registered massage therapist?
Yeah.
Before you were a registered kin?
Yeah, because the College of Kin didn't come to existence until I think
Probably
2013, 2010.
Yeah, we were already
I think it was
living
2013.
Together.
Yeah.
I know they were talking about it because like a bunch of my professors at Mac were on the committee to build it. Right. That was when I was graduating in 2010. So yeah.
So when that opportunity came up to join that college, because they would grandfather you in, there was a certain window of time that you can register with them and be grandfathered in, provided you sent them your university transcripts and you meet certain requirements, and they would just grant you your registration. So I'm like, I'm all over this, but I didn't realize at the time how expensive it was, because like that registration fee is like $650, and at the time the massage therapy registration fee was like, I don't know, not even
what
500.
It is now.
No,
not what it is
really
now.
Cheap. I'm 11 years in, and it was only like 400 and something when I started.
And
so.
it might have even been less though. I think it was like 285 or something along those lines, and then it just jumped like crazy over the years.
Well, now the complaints that you see on Facebook, now they make a little bit more sense to me. Before I was like, what are we complaining about?
But I mean, it's still like it's really not that bad though. What,
it
700
isn't.
bones?
Pretty,
and like we were talking about on the way here, you know it's coming.
Yeah,
plan for it.
And on top of that, like realistically, you work 2 days and you made that. If you work 2 days, you made your registration fee. What do I know?
It costs the college quite a lot to do their gym. I worked actually at CMTO. I don't even know if I talked about.
Where'd you do at CMTO?
I worked on the appeals committee when that was a thing for appealing failing exams. Then I worked on quality assurance for a year, and then I did 3 years on ICRC.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, inquiries, complaints, and reporting. That was super fun.
Yeah.
And dealing with RMTs, they should people on that committee should just get paid just to like not have to smack themselves in the face sometimes. Like,
so you were like a council member, or?
So I wasn't council, so I was non-council party, because you have to have a quorum. So
right.
I was that extra like non-council.
What made you want to do that? That's a cool gig.
It's actually funny you say that. So I went to CMTO was running like a free professional workshop or something like that. I'm like, sweet, free CEUs, I'll go for that.
Yeah.
And I was there. Yeah, I was like, this is great. So I went, and I forget the name of the instructor. She was doing it, and she goes, we're looking for they call it volunteers on some committees. Yeah. We like to have like 5 years in, whatever. I'm like, I don't have any of this, but I talked to her, and she's just like, just go put your name in. I had 3 years in, and 2 years in. So I went and I gave my name. Like, yeah, sure. We just need a body and a chair. And you'll be on appeals, and they meet like one time because nobody appeals a failed exam.
Right.
So I was like, all right. So I went and I sat, and then they give you the ability to sit 3 consecutive years. So I applied to the QA one, and I had made some connections, and it was simply, I thought it'd be cool to like see the inner workings.
Oh, for sure.
And then I found out it was a paid volunteer position. I was like, great, we can do this too. And then it just like started my love for it. And actually, when I was in college in 3rd year, the president of the college, CMTO, came, and she was talking, and I had a beef with her because I was trying to get a hold of them to tell me what was happening with BC Ontario, because I was moving out to British Columbia like within like 2 months of like graduating school. So I'm like, I need to know if I'm gonna have to like redo school, like what is the point? But no one returned my phone call, and I was like having a problem with it. It was like they didn't know, but I was like, someone just tell me you don't know so I can plan for it.
Right.
And I was sitting in class, and so I asked her like, why is no one getting back to me on this? Right? Like, it's a big issue. And she's gave me whatever answer. I'm like, I'm coming for her job. Like, I can do a better job than her. So when they're like, you want to work CMTO? I'm like, yes, I do. And I do plan to go back. I do plan to be on council. Like, those are all things I'm going to do.
Nice.
I just decided to have a baby at some point, and that kind of put a wrinkle in it. So it takes a lot. Like, they're busy.
Oh, for sure.
It's a lot of meetings, and they try to like divvy them up so you're not always in person.
Yeah.
But when you're on council, like ICRC, we met every 6 weeks, and every other one was in person.
Right.
And I would spend 2 weeks prepping for 1 day of conference meetings. It was outrageous how much work there was. So, I mean, they paid you for it, but
it's so much work, and it does kill me when you see people in the Facebook groups like, we shouldn't have to pay for fees, or we should get so much. I'm like, you have no idea. The college is still operating, and there's a massive operating budget that goes along with it, and they still do tons of fucking work. And if you don't know what kind of work they do, go.
You go and
sit.
Go
yourself.
sit in, exactly.
Yeah, go
right?
sit and see. Like, go see like a...
I'll give you an example. I felt like one day I'm like, I want to go see what a discipline hearing looks like. So I went to a couple of them, and then it blew my fucking mind how expensive they are.
Oh yeah, the lawyers are money, and they're downtown Toronto. And for every time, before they even get to that stage, we've consulted that lawyer at least 2 or 3 times.
It's insane.
It's outrageous because we're like, all right, this is what we think is happening. It's like, all right, write it up, send it off to the lawyer. It's like, there's $800 for 1 hour. Like, that's nice. Plus the time we sat in there. Like, it was crazy, like the amount of money. So when you see the budgets, I'm like, I'm surprised that's not more.
Exactly.
Like, it's crazy.
Exactly. Especially with the amount of fucking hearings and investigations and all that stuff. Like the one I sat in, there was a dude that he got dinged for sexual abuse. And the whole proceeding was like 120 grand.
Yeah.
And he got ordered to pay back, I think, like 80 grand of it. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, they usually go off at least like 50 or something like that, and then they like work it out.
This guy,
and they give wanted a payment plan. Like, it's crazy.
that's the thing. And they wanted him to pay back in like a 2-year period.
Oh, they're really unrealistic.
He's like, this is not fucking possible. They're like, what can you do? He's like, maybe 8. They're like, how about 5? He's like, how about 8?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, we'll meet. And then the council, the
but even
panel.
Still, really think about that.
He's got a mortgage
on the
payment
hook for 10 grand a year for the next 8
years.
years.
And he's got to find a new job probably.
Yeah, he had another job, and he's like, I can't afford this. Like, the job that I have now is shit compared to what I was doing before. And then the whole time I'm sitting there is going, maybe you shouldn't have fucking touched boobies, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
But
it's pretty simple.
But I'm not gonna lie, I did feel bad for him for a little bit, but then when you sit back and think, like, why are you even fucking here in the first place? Then I didn't feel bad. But I did feel bad, but I didn't, but I did. You know,
I think the moral of the story, though, is people, if you don't know what the college does, like, okay, fine, maybe you don't really understand how expensive it is, but actually really think about it. There's 15,000 RMTs in Ontario. They're busy. And by the way, I should not rant about this, but this makes me laugh and eye roll every day. All of you who are saying, I emailed the college about this, how do you want them to get anything done if all they're doing is answering your 7,000 emails about things that we can figure out on our own?
We want to be seen as healthcare professionals. Maybe we should be acting like healthcare professionals, using our reasoning, using our everything we've learned in school.
During COVID, man, the number of people who were like lobbying, like, everybody email the CMTO. I'm like, this is a bad idea. Do not email them. Stop it.
Well, while we were off too, when you're talking about, they were still going through and receiving complaints.
Oh, for sure.
And still going through those processes. If you go and look, people were still going through disciplinary action while we were off. Like, they're still working plus trying to figure out COVID because nobody knew what to do. We've never been through this.
No, nobody knew what to do.
We are now. Like, it makes no sense.
I think with the complaints they're gonna get now, like with COVID, like just like clients and stuff. I'm like, maybe I don't want to go back.
I don't understand. Like, how are you so oblivious that everyone's busy? Like why would the CMTO not? Why would you not be accepting that the CMTO doesn't know what to do when the fucking federal government doesn't know what to do? Like, realistically, come on now.
They're all making up by the seat of their pants, and there's not like a ton of in-house staff. Like, when you go like in there, and you sit in there and you see the office building because everyone's like, oh, it's downtown. Like, I get why it is where it is. It's, by the way, it's Davisville. It's not.
It's not downtown.
We're not in like Bridle Path. Like, it's not like that. And the building isn't super fancy.
I used to work walking distance from the CMTO. It's not downtown.
No, it's not downtown. So it's like kind of out of the way. I mean, it's expensive.
Yeah, but when you're from Windsor, everything you say Toronto, everything's downtown.
Yeah,
so everything.
Yeah. So like, it was wild to me because it was so early in my career when I started. I think it really set the standard for me in like practicing in general. Like, why I do things, why I don't do things, why I document certain stuff. And it just gave me a lot of confidence when I would say something to a client, like no, or this, or I would know where it would go, like standards, ethics, like all that, and be like, there is the reasoning behind it. I mean, I can say like every once in a while CMTO will come out with something and I'm like eye rolling. I'm like, really? I can see where this is coming, but like on a practical standpoint, I don't know why you didn't have an RMT who's like, this is a terrible idea. Like, every time someone works on like a PEC, you have to have like consent. I'm like, can I do it for a treatment plan? Like, can we sign it once for a whole treatment plan, give verbal consent after that? I'm like, this is a lot, but I see what you're doing. I get where you're coming from, because I have sat on more than one case where, you know what I mean? Like, they get that consent verbally and then it's like he said, she said, and it's a whole like muddy water of nothing. So I get where they're coming with it, because so many people fall through the cracks because they don't have something to fall back on. So we would see like lots of smoke, but you can't pin the fire. Whereas at the very least, they were like, if you don't have the paperwork, because who's signing, you know what I mean? Like, who's signing that after? If you don't have the paper, they very least can be like, professional misconduct, there's no paperwork.
Right.
So like we're able to like mesh it. I'm like, I see where this is going, but everyone just like calm down. It's not for you.
You can't. I mean, you can't make everyone happy. If you come up with this form, someone's gonna fucking hate it, and then there's gonna be a big rally around it.
Yeah.
And if they did something else, someone's gonna hate it, and there's gonna be like they're in a no-win situation. You cannot win.
It's not just them. They have to also look at like other colleges. What are they doing? Ministry of Health. Like they're governed by, right? Like they govern us, but they're governed too. So they're constantly like playing this like in between like line, and all the times, like even when you're there, you can feel the energy. They're all like stepping on toes. Like it's
an impossible job. I mean, I fucking have trouble managing fucking 2 little kids. One's 6 and one's 3, and they're managing 15,000 fucking people. Like it's an impossible job. You cannot do that without getting people.
Just like with the RMTeo, I think it's 4 of them.
Yeah.
Like I've been having a lot of meetings with Michael Faraday because I'm part of the committees and stuff. And I didn't even realize that there was like 4 or 5 of them. How
did you get to be doing the CBNs? Actually, let's tell everyone what a CBN is.
Yeah. So it's a community-based network. They're kind of all over Ontario, and I want to say it's run or it's under the umbrella of the RMTEO, but there's like no fee to it. It's just a way for the RMTEO to kind of get more information out to RMTs, build community, build a network within each other, as well as provide feedback to the RMTEO. Like if issues arise, like let's say when the consent for sensitive areas came out and there was a lot of backlash or whatever issues with it, as a group we would talk about it and give that feedback to the RMTEO so that they could go to the CMTO and give them that feedback. So how it kind of started was when I came back, I don't remember how long I was into it, not even like maybe 6 months. Another RMT in our area, she was trying to get a bunch of RMTs in the area together and just meet, because we do work so alone and so independently and so much that we don't really connect with each other a whole lot. And it ended up being 3 of us showing up, and we all knew each other. So we didn't really meet anybody new.
Yeah.
So then we kind of got talking, and I said coming back, and I think I mentioned this on when you guys had me in last, I wanted to build a bigger network, a bigger massage network, because I just love talking about massage. I love talking about rehab and all of that in the body and anatomy, and I love that. So I wanted a bigger network to talk about that stuff with. And so they both that showed up with us own their own clinics. One like owns a massive clinic in the Oshawa area, as well as they both work at the college teaching. So they're like, we couldn't really take on like a big role in this. So I kind of said, you know what, I'm new. I can work this into my schedule now instead of building it in later. So I kind of got connected in that way. So
nice.
yeah.
So how many people turn out to your meetings now then?
Our first meeting was 20 people, which seemed to be like the most in person. And that was like the only in-person meeting we ended up having.
Right.
I think we might have had another one after that with a few less, but now I do a lot of it virtual now, and it's actually worked out better. I always wanted to introduce the virtual part of it, because knowing so many RMTs are moms and parents, that then they could connect, or if they couldn't leave, or let's say they only had the hour of lunch and that's when we were meeting, and they could just connect remotely and listen in, especially if we had a speaker in. My idea too is to maybe like record the speaker and provide it just for the network to if they couldn't show up. So it kind of worked out that it pushed us in that direction, because I think a lot of them were pushing back on the technology when I first brought it up. And then this all happened, and then they all were like, let's do this. So now we have, I'll have between like 10 and 20 people on a virtual call.
That's awesome.
And our group is like all the groups I've kind of jumped in on, and to see how it works, because again, I'm new. I'm like, I want to make sure I'm doing this right. And they all kind of have a different dynamic. And ours is very much like coming for the information, maybe bounce a few ideas off, but like you run your thing the way you do. You stay in your lane. I'll stay in my lane. I'm not going to comment or be negative. Like
it's really supporting in that way. It's like
our group is very supportive of each other.
I don't understand.
What is that, right?
What? Not dumping down each other's throats, and that's what I really like about our
rainbows and sunshine. I like it.
It's kind of like their escape. Like I'll even be like, okay, let's stop talking about COVID for a second, and like, what did you do this weekend? Like, everybody tell me what you did this weekend, just to remember that like we are all human again.
Yeah,
we have lives outside of COVID and massage too. So let's like,
do we though?
Yeah.
Doesn't sound like it right now.
That's all I do right now.
Well, that's what like made me like also excited to like kind of back up to when Nicole and I connected and working together, let alone the space and what she was offering me, was the fact that she was willing to be a mentor, and as well as...
I didn't know that at the time. I didn't sign up for that.
I kind of made her my mentor. You are now it.
She was willing to be a mentor once I told her to.
Yeah. Pretty much. But knowing that she had this CMTO background, because a lot of the stuff does come out and you're like, wait, what does that say? Like, what am I supposed to do? And she kind of was like, okay, she knew where they were coming with it,
right?
So it helped me as somebody new again.
Nice. It's like you got your own little translator.
Yeah, the
amazing
from the CMTO. It's all the exact same. And like once you've done like a year or two, whatever, like once you've sat in on like say a few decisions and you hear the same things over and over, like I feel like if I just sat for a minute, I could say like the same 10 lines. They say every single time. But it's because that's like how law works, right? And that's the whole thing. It's like law. So that's it is. It's so much easier. And like
I'm sick of hearing general deterrence, specific deterrence.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's it was good though. I didn't know I was gonna. I just was like, want to rent for me because I don't work part time. Someone pay me rent so I can stay home with my baby.
And like I said, I walked into her clinic and I was a patient, and then it was I came home and said, if I go back to massage, don't worry, I'll never go back to massage, but like if I ever do, this is exactly how I want to do it. And then 3 years later, I'm like, they put it out in the universe, and now here I am.
And I already had a renter, and I was like, well, if like they peace out, then I'll like let you know. And then literally the end May long weekend, he was like, I'm moving to Ottawa, and I'm like, okay. And then she got her license within like a month. It was crazy. Yep. It was pretty awesome timing.
Pretty awesome, yeah.
Yeah, it worked out really good. I just wanted someone there that I could refer people to, knowing that I was going to have more babies at some point. So you had to take on my whole like list of people at the this time of year, so you're ready for that.
Yes. November, December, I'm taking on her clients.
I'm going off the end of October.
All right. Yeah.
Take it all.
So what's it been like for you guys now, getting back to your everything after COVID? All of it.
Well, for starters, massage therapists were given the green light end of May that they could go back and treat. That doesn't mean anything for Con Ed.
No,
we couldn't. We couldn't do anything. So, I mean, people may or may not know my practice is super part-time. It is like probably the lowest on the rungs of my priority list. I mean, that sounds horrible. Yeah. But
no, it doesn't.
It's not my main source of income. It's not where my energy goes. I have a wonderful group of clients that I've had for a long time. I pretty much only treat people by referral. So I might see 10 people in an entire week, and that's a busy week. Like practice is not my main job. So great. Everyone's excited they get to go back to work. And I'm like, I mean, I'm happy and I want to see my clients again and I want to have a purpose again and I want to work again. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm not going to make any more than I'm making sitting on my ass at home. For that, what we wanted to get up and running was Con Ed. Yeah. So during that time, like you said, everyone being resistant to virtual, Mark and I never wanted to make Con Ed virtual. Like
it's not the virtual part. We didn't want to do online courses, because an online course versus a virtual live stream thing,
they're different.
Is a whole other beast.
Yeah,
like to have a very, very good, well laid out online course is so much freaking work. But to live stream a course is simple. Like that's just taking everything we do live.
Are you forgetting all of May? Not simple.
Okay.
Not simple. That's where I was going with this whole thing. Yes, now it is. Yeah. But that took some work. So anyway, once we realized, okay, RMTs are going back to work, and we were being bombarded with emails, people who were waiting for their courses. And again, like I understood where they were coming from, but I was also like, take 10 minutes and think about what you're saying. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. It was even worse at the beginning. Like as soon as everything got locked down, and then we're like twiddling our thumbs going, okay, like what do we do? We don't even know what to do at this point. Yeah. And then we have a billion people for a billion courses saying, since this course is not happening, like we purposely put it on our website, like these courses are postponed. We never use the word cancel because we're not canceling a course. We're postponing the course. And so we got a billion emails like, oh, I see the course is canceled or the course is postponed. Can I get my money back? Can I get my money? If you can count the thousands of fucking dollars of worth of emails saying, can I have my money back?
I did count it. It was, some people don't make this much in a year.
Yeah, it was insane. So Anyway, so yeah, no one gets it, right? So everyone's like, I need the money now, and I'm like, we are closed. Like everywhere's closed. Like the same way, we had concert tickets. Guess what? Like we don't get our money back. We can't
concerts
call it
postponed.
I can't call it
postponed.
I can't call Ticketmaster and say whatever. And even when places start to open up, like if you go buy something at Walmart during this time, they don't take a refund on anything. You can't return something.
No.
You buy it, that's it. Too bad.
Yeah.
And even from a legal standpoint, you purchased a course from us. Guess what? I researched all this shit because I just wanted to know where I stand. I'm like, I actually don't even owe you guys a refund, to be honest with you.
It's a pandemic.
Yeah, I don't owe you any. Even if it wasn't a pandemic and I didn't deliver on that, I still don't actually technically
in
owe
Ontario,
from a legal standpoint.
there's no law around that. So but anyway, the point is we didn't want to keep anyone's money.
I don't want to keep anyone's money.
We wanted to make sure everyone was taken care of, but all we were asking for was patience. And when we reopen, we'll make sure, if you're not going to take the rescheduled course, you'll get refunded or you'll get a credit or whatever. But can we wait till we reopen? At this moment, we can't do anything. But anyway,
there's so much unknown.
It was kind of a shitstorm. So when we got the green light to go back to work, RMTs,
was before even CERB came out, right?
Yeah.
So we understand why everyone is just fucking losing their mind.
This was immediate. Like I'd say, we stopped working, mid-March. Yeah. Literally before the end of March, I already was ready to throw my phone every single day, every hour. I was getting what are you guys going to do? Is this course going to run? I'm like, I don't know. But when RMTs were allowed to go back to work, I said to Mark, okay, this is the time though. Like we really need to know what we're doing because we're about to get a second wave of crazy emails because they're all going to, and sure enough, they all think we can go back to work. So that's when we thought, you know what? Like we had done some at the beginning of May, but we thought, what can we make virtual? Like some things you can't, for insurance reasons, and we just don't want to cheapen the material.
Yes.
But we thought there's certain things we can probably put out that can be done live stream and that we can make really good quality. And at least for the people that are sending us 20,000 emails a day, you can take this and when we reopen, you can still take it in person, no charge. Let's do this. So we spent a couple of weeks just shooting video.
Because the first time we did a live stream and it was an assessments review course, and there wasn't a large number. There's probably like
3 or 4 people. It was a small group.
Yeah, it was a small group of people in it, and we thought, okay, no problem. We'll do it on Zoom, and we'll use the phone camera, and we'll do the live demos. We'll do every demo live. So I
came in to be the body on Mother's Day, by the way.
And it wasn't bad. But it wasn't smooth.
It wasn't smooth.
And then all of the transitions from lecturing on the mic to going to doing the live demonstration and going back and forth, it was just a lot of time.
And there was so many technical difficulties, which obviously people understand are out of our control. But we're the less we can do these transitions, the smoother it will look. So we spent a couple weeks shooting beautiful videos
we did
for
everything that would have been a live demonstration. We created a video for.
Perfect.
Yeah. So now it's smooth as fuck.
Yeah.
So now it's like, oh, here's the demonstration, bang, here's the video, we watch the video, we talk about the video, we point out a bunch of things, and then now they even have the video, they get the videos, right? Which they never had before. So that started off pretty good, and then that's something now we're going to keep doing it, and now we're going to start to simulcast the live courses, right? Because we can only have so many people in here at a time, and we've already have people emailing us from Alberta, Nova Scotia saying, is he still doing live stream on this one, blah blah blah. So we're going to start
now it's just opened up the virtual to your
It
clientele.
was absolutely something we had kind of shied away from. And then when it became no choice, like I said to him, we have 2 options right now. We can throw away $30,000 today and give everybody their money back. Or we can see how much we can put online, and at least because we weren't looking to make any money, we just didn't want to have to give everything back.
Yeah, and then we also wanted everyone that was kind of in limbo to at least have something
to
if
do.
If you really want the course still, then here is something to hold you over until we actually can get back in person.
And then I know Heather at least was involved. I don't know if Nicole was, but I mean, you wrote us a really nice review. But we tried to do some free stuff. So we put out a few free videos, and then we did the free virtual education day.
That day.
That was a fun time.
That was good, yeah.
I mean, it was fun to watch. It was a little hectic in here.
Yeah, I can imagine. I'm not gonna lie, I was exhausted at the end. It was so much information.
It was so much.
On it. I was running around taller.
But I was like, this is this is kind of like a once in a lifetime opportunity or once in a career opportunity to have that value.
We've always kicked around the idea of doing a live conference. Like, let's do a 2-day conference. Yeah. Ever since we started going to the conference, like we presenting at conferences. So we started with the Massage Therapy Expo, and we did that for 3 years. That stopped happening, and then the year after that, we did the Canadian Massage Conference. Yeah. So ever since we started doing them, we're like, let's do a Con Ed freaking conference one day.
So to sort of practice, I'm putting in air quotes, we started doing the free education nights. So every 2 months we would bring 2 speakers in here and we'd have a whole thing. We'd have food and drinks and, it was networking and free education. And it was sort of just us building up and networking and meeting people to figure out, like, could we put together a whole like weekend event or a whole day event? And the virtual one was amazing.
Yeah, the virtual one worked out really, really well. I was really happy with it. And I was like, I got the idea originally from, there's this guy in the States. I think his name is, I can't remember. I'm going to butcher his name. It's not a difficult name. Chris Burns. I think his name is Chris Burns.
It is Chris Burns.
It is Chris Burns? Okay. So his people, he does this, he has a podcast. I don't know if he still does it. I think just recently I saw that he stopped doing it. A podcast called like The Better You or something along those lines, right? It's a really kind of inspirational type of thing. And his people got in contact with us, and we thought that meant Chris Burns wanted to be a guest on our podcast, the way his people made it sound. And so we set up this whole call with him and blah, 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 blah. And it turned out he was like asking me to be on his podcast. So I was really confused. And so I went and checked out his podcast, and he does this thing on a Wednesday. He does this straight 12 hours of podcasting with like 12 different guests. And he streams it on Facebook. So it's all day long on a Wednesday. And he was doing that for every Wednesday. And I was like, this is a fucking brilliant idea. Why can't we do this with massage therapy education? Let's get a whole bunch of speakers. Let's do it on Zoom. Let's put it onto Facebook. And let's just have one fucking long day of education. And the whole idea was to get that before everyone was back to work, but it ended up being people were able to go back to work and blah, 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 blah.
And the CMTO put out a webinar on the same day too.
Yeah. Leave it to them.
That feels intentional.
You know what though?
I know those people. No, I'm joking.
For that session though, that 1 hour session, the numbers didn't drop. Actually,
no, they really didn't.
No,
we were concerned.
Go see it later.
Yeah.
That was my thing. I'll go watch that later.
Yeah, so it was really interesting to do. We want to do that again.
Yeah.
Like, that was good.
Make it like an annual.
I think I would make it more. I think I'd do it twice a year.
Yeah. And at least the next time we can have more planning time. Like Mark said, we wanted to get this out when people were still off work. So just as, the way our podcast started, it was the same thing. He came home and he was like, I want to do a virtual event. Bust out the calendar. Tell me what day we can do. And I was like, what? So we had like 3 weeks to put this all together. It was like,
and then we started thinking about, who do we know that has interesting stuff to say or teaches and does really interesting stuff that we think would be interesting. And so thank God we have a lot of people that we kind of know that do some good stuff.
Yes, you have. Yeah.
Well, and working with Mark is fun. All those speakers can tell you. It's like he messages you, tells you this is the idea, and he wants an answer right now. And okay, if you're in, then I want your bio tomorrow, and then I want your syllabus the next day. Like, it's like he makes things happen. It all happened really fast. But I mean, your original question was, how was it opening Con Ed? Our actual first in-class course is happening this weekend. We haven't had anybody, hence the chairs are still up. We haven't had anybody in the space since the lockdown.
Live streaming, which is really freaking weird. It's like I sit here for 2 days, and it's like I just sit and I talk for 2 days to nobody because half the people don't have their freaking cameras on, so I don't even know who's there, who's what. It's really
you're getting a taste of the YouTuber life.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really freaking strange.
When no one's in front of them.
Really strange.
Well, we kind of jumped ahead a bit. You kind of spoke on it too. What drove you to start Con Ed? Was it your like interest, because clearly you both were interested in the education side, or was it that you saw there was a gap? Like a hole.
I think we have different ideas of how it started. So I don't know. You decide. You want to go first?
You go first.
Well, this is how my recollection of it. Yes, Mark's always had interest. And so he was teaching at a massage therapy college, as he told you, and he was teaching multiple classes a day. There were some days where he was working from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. Teaching. So his practice really went down to like maybe one evening a week. Like, he was basically treating the bare minimum to keep a license, and he was teaching the whole time. And after me being a therapist for probably 2 years, because I think that was the minimum requirement, I got a job as a clinic supervisor at the same college. So now we're both sort of in education, but I was practicing more than I was teaching, and he was teaching more than he was practicing. And in 2014, we had our first kid. And Mark probably, I know he doesn't like when I say it like this, but it's really just what it is. He probably missed the first 18 months of her life. Like, he saw her Saturday, Sunday. Like, he worked all the time. So now I'm off. I'm on maternity leave, right? And I'm by myself with this baby all the time. So we're both miserable. Like, nobody's happy right now, right?
Me or you and the baby miserable? When you say both?
Me and you.
Oh, okay.
I mean, she's happy as shit. She's a baby.
The first 18 months of their life is golden.
Right. She was having a great time.
Sleep, eat, poop. She's good.
Right. So, yeah, we were both pretty miserable, but I don't think I would have ever said to him, like, you know, you need to quit your job or whatever. But we had taught a couple of continuing education courses before I got pregnant. It was sort of like a side thing that we did. I think we had taught maybe 4 times. So we had taught a business course that we developed with one of my clients who was a chartered accountant. It was actually his idea. And because I knew Mark was like really into this idea of continuing education, I brought him in on it. We did the business course. And then Mark developed the joint mobs course. So then we taught that a couple times. So anyway, when our daughter was about 18 months old, Mark came home from work one day, looked like he hated his life. And I was, you know, concerned to have him anywhere near a window at that point. Like, he was just miserable. He sat down on the kitchen floor. I was cooking dinner. And in all the years I've known him, I've never seen him just sit on the floor. So it's like, what is happening?
Probably
like,
never see me in the kitchen.
Yeah, exactly. I was kind of freaking out. Like, what is wrong with you? You know? So by this point, like, kid was in bed because it was late. He got home late, and he said, I hate my job. And I'd never heard him say that because he really did love teaching. He's like, I hate my job, like hate it. And I said, okay, what are we going to do? And he's like, I want to quit. And I said, so quit. And he's like, no, like I'm serious. I want to quit. Tomorrow. And I said, I know you're serious. So quit. And then he said, what I really want to do is I want to start developing courses again. And I want to start teaching continuing education because I like to teach, but I don't want to teach massage therapy college anymore.
You want to teach on your own terms.
Yep. So I said, do it. And again, it was probably like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. Like, it wasn't early. And he said, do you mind if I go out for a little bit? And he left. And he went and, you know, talked to his family and said, I have a new baby at home. Well, I mean, she wasn't a new baby. She was a year and a half. But either way, I have a baby at home. I have, you know, I had just gone back to work. Like, yeah, we had a new home. Like, and he basically just went to his family and said, I'm going to start this new business idea. If I fail miserably, do I have support from you guys? And they were like, if you're honestly miserable in your job, quit your job. So everybody was super on board. I was super on board. Like I said, Mark does things really fast. I knew he was going to quit his job. I honestly didn't quite know it was going to be the next day.
They gave notice the next day.
So he was out. And then, so that was the very end of 2015. So 2016 is when Con Ed was really born, where we went full force. So I still had my clinic job. He got another couple, I think you had 2 part-time clinic jobs. I think, yeah. So he was working at 2 different clinics, but very part-time, really trying to put all his energy in Con Ed. And he developed courses, like, there were some days where you'd sit at the laptop for like 15 hours at a time, I felt. And he was just like pumping out material, and it was really, but it was like really good. And I'm like, how are you doing this? Like,
he's just in the zone.
Yeah.
Well, it's also because when I was teaching at a massage therapy college, I taught everything. I literally, there was not one course that was in the course offered course catalog that I did not teach at some point. And so I was like, this is okay. And so to bring it back, we originally started it with like that business course, which is a huge gap in massage school. So when her client, who originally wanted to do it with his daughter, who was a chiropractor, and she, I guess, had no interest.
She had no interest. So he approached me.
He approached her to do it for massage therapists. And so when she said, like, do you want to get involved? I'm like, this is brilliant because business and massage school sucks. And so then after we did the first one, and we had, like, it was a decent turnout. It was our first, like, we were nobodies.
People,
it was
8
like
people.
10 people.
Yeah.
And this is when we charged. We charged ridiculous. We charged like $700 for this 2-day course.
Too much in the beginning.
And so at the end of this thing, I was like, this is kind of cool. Like, I like this. I can, if I can figure out a way to just do this, then I'd be happy. And so then I developed a joint mobilizations course. And that was based on the idea there's holes in school. No one comes out and feels really confident with joint molds. So I'm like, let me create a course. So then it started off with, let's fill the gaps where you come out and you're not great.
Yeah.
And so like the next one was like record keeping, because so let's do a 1-day record keeping course.
And then the Remex courses you developed. Like it is exactly as you said. Everywhere he saw a gap, he created content for. But like I said, he was like, it was crazy. I was doing it fast. Like all these, and like
I would create a full course
in like a couple days. It was so
like
fast.
All the content, everything
and
else.
I mean, he's giving me the
done,
stuff to edit, and I'm looking at it, and I want to give him notes, and I'm like, it's perfect. Like I don't know how you did this, but so that's why I always joke, and I'm like, I take no credit for it. Like he just pumped out all of this material while I was working at the clinic, taking care of our daughter. And so 2016, we just started teaching, and we thought, it might be a slow start because again, nobody really knows who we are. We're just, who are you guys? Like what credentials do you have to teach? And, we had a guy.
We had great support though the whole time.
Yeah, we had really good support. We had a guy who Mark and I worked with.
Steve.
And
thank you, Steve.
Yeah, Steve is awesome.
Fucking awesome.
And Steve knows anything and everything about marketing and Google and SEO optimization. Like he knows everything.
And he was way into education too.
And he was in education. So Steve really helped us fix the website, really clean up the social media, and like how to target people and what to do.
While I was doing a lot of content, Steve is like, okay, let me help you with your digital space. And so that way, by the time the content was finished, the digital space was already there. I was like, oh, this is gold.
Yeah. So Steve's done some work with us over the years. Like sometimes when we teach business, if he's available, he might jump in and help us out with the digital marketing section or anyway. So then that happened, and we were getting such good feedback. Like at that time we were teaching, I think, one course a month. Because we were new, teaching one course a month, and people were like, are you going to do this again? Are you going to have more? And like we were getting just the best feedback from these things. And so it slowly became where we were adding more and more courses. Mark was pulling away more and more from his clinics until one of his clinics actually said to him, like nicely, but like, we're holding you back, dude. Like you have no interest in being here. We like you, but we want therapists who want to be here. We can see that your brain, like we can see that your head is not here. You want to focus on your education business, not here. So they essentially walked him out the door, and then he was like, well, now we really gotta do more.
Yeah, because at this point now I have 0 clinics that I'm at. Like that was the last clinic that I was at, and I was probably doing, I don't know, 4 hours a week. Like, that's how little I was working. Gosh. Yeah. So then after that killed, then we started pumping more courses, and then that was like the sweet spot. That got to a point where I was only working weekends. I was only teaching, and I was treating the odd person. I was probably doing maybe a 4 or 5 a week.
Yeah, if that. Yeah,
private clients. I would go to someone's house and I would treat a couple people, and then I would a couple days later do the same thing. And it really was, I was only working weekends teaching, and that was a sweet spot.
It was a sweet spot. It was funny. Every night, Mark would say to me, "We're either doing something really wrong or really right." Because he was just. It was really good. So that was 2017 when we got to that, like
the
really good.
The end of 2000, all of 2017.
Yeah, 2017 was beautiful. We
year.
also had our second child in June of 2017. So now I'm off again, but it's fine because my husband's home Monday to Friday. He only works weekends. It was beautiful, and then everything was great and glorious up until June of 2018 when the CMTO said, "Guess what, guys? You don't need CEUs anymore." We're like, oh, did we just build a business that is now obsolete? Okay, cool.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then just like COVID, within the first freaking 4 days,
we refunded like
emails.
$10,000.
That doesn't make sense to me either. Just because they take away CEUs doesn't mean that you shouldn't still be continuing.
That doesn't make sense to you.
But people who like to learn and progress themselves without somebody having to tell them you have to, right?
There was always whenever we started off the class, I'd be straight off. I'm like, who is here because of the CEU value? Like, I'm not going to judge you for it, and I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy to give you your letter of completion that says you've completed these hours, but I just want to know who the group is that's in front of me right now. And for sure, every class, there was always like 3 or 4 people like, you know what, dude, thank you for asking. No offense, I don't really care about the material, but this is worth 7 CEUs, and I need 7.
When the CMTO sent out that email, we actually changed. We had a course evaluation that we used to give to everybody at the end of the course. Yeah. We still do it sometimes. It's just not every single person because honestly, like, how many of those can we possibly do? Yeah. But we added a question that was, if you didn't have to do continuing education, would you still have taken this course? Because at that point, then we were trying to figure out, do we still have a market? Like, are people still going to take, but we knew, like, at some point people are going to have to start taking courses again. It's not like just because the values are gone, you still have to do continuing education. Every healthcare professional has to do continuing education. So we stuck it out to the end of basically the second half of 2018.
You know what
we took turns crying every night.
The osteopaths helped us out so much.
Those osteos saved us.
Because we didn't realize that one of the associations had approved all of our courses. Like, we never approached them on anything. Apply. And we suddenly had an influx of all these osteos contacting us, like, saying, like, can I take this course? When is this course happening? I'm like, what is going on here? Like, how did you find us? They're like, you're on the association's website. I'm like, really? This is great. They're like, yeah, you're an approved provider for our association.
Yeah, so the end of that year, we got a lot of osteos. And then also, Mark started offering OSCE prep again. Because we had an OSCE prep at the beginning, and then we took it away because we weren't really getting a lot of people, and it's a lot because OSCE prep's not 1 or 2 days. That's that's a full week. So we were like, oh, do we really keep this? Because then basically he's teaching to one person, but then once we realized, like, well, I mean, it's teach to one person or teach to 0. So we brought the OSCE prep back, but made it better. And then that went crazy. There was a period where I think it was something like 13 weeks straight. You worked 7 days a week. Because he was doing one-on-one OSCE preps like every day.
So is that speaking then to the education that's out there as the massage, that they're not prepping them as well as they should be in some institutions? Not to call them out, but because
do you find you get like people from like
the same area,
like
or
same
the same
schools, or you don't have to name the schools?
We can say yes. I mean, quite honestly, I will say it. We've never had a Sutherland Chan grad contact us for OSCE prep.
Yeah, OSCE prep.
It's very specific demographic.
Like, we don't take anyone into the. I shouldn't say it like that. We want to make sure that we're a good match for you for OSCE prep.
You have to do a consult first.
So we do a consultation.
You can't just pay us.
And so once we start talking the consult, I'm like, I can bet what school you went to just by the way you're talking and the things you're saying and the areas that you're telling me that you're feeling are our biggest concern. And 9 out of 10 times I'm right on what schools they come from.
Yeah.
And it's really freaking sad. Like, I had someone come in from, she lived in Kingston. I think she went to school in Cornwall or something like that. And she was like the valedictorian of her class. And she failed her OSCE twice. Like, she was getting 90s in school, and she blew her OSCE twice. And she comes in, she's like, I have no idea why I'm failing. Like, I don't know. I'm doing everything that I did at my school, and I did awesome at my school, and I go to do it at the OSCE, and I can't even get 70. Like, I need fucking help here. Help me.
That girl broke my heart because you could tell she was a hard worker. You could tell it wasn't because of her study habits. It honestly, the school really failed her.
Yeah.
That's really a school that was, I'll just take your money, please. And
yeah, pretty much. And so we did the 4 days, and she passed her OSCE that third time, and she wrote a really nice review. But I mean, that's a perfect example, like, where, this is a great student, and she only knows what you're teaching her, and it happens a lot.
In the 4 days that she was with us, like, she absorbed everything really quickly. She would, Mark would tell her something. She had a good attitude, though. When people come in to do an OSCE prep, Mark will say to them, like, just forget everything that you think because you got a
failed
lot
already.
You got a lot of people coming in, and then we teach OSCE prep a very specific way. Basically, we don't reteach you anything. It's preparing you for what to expect in the station. We expect you have the knowledge because you graduated, right?
Yep.
But then if we see that you're doing something just incorrectly, or you need help in a certain area, we'll tell you where you're going wrong. And each time we'll have somebody say to us, like, well, this is what I was taught. We're like, well, that didn't work out for you. So like, just forget everything you think you know, and we'll get you through this.
The worst is, I've had a couple schools approach me to do OSCE prep for their school. And then that's what I was like, first off the bat, I'm like, listen, I don't want to go in there and badmouth your staff because ultimately it's going to happen. I can feel it, right? Because I'm going to go in there and say something and they're going to say, well, that's not what our teachers tell us to do. And I'm going to be like, I don't know what else to tell you. Like, other than like, this is the way you need to do it. And if you do it this way, you'll probably be fine. And if you do it this way, you're not going to be fine. And I had a couple of people that run schools. I'm like, I don't know if this is a good idea. So one of them I did it for, and it actually worked out well. They were happy with it. And their staff was, the guy who runs the school, he's like, listen, do whatever the fuck you want. Just make sure our people do well.
Their staff initially didn't like us, but they have come to like us.
But there's actually one dude there that teaches at that school.
You. Yeah.
He's a good guy and he likes what we do. And he's actually the one that recommended us. So he kind of helped keep all the staff at bay, like just let him do his thing and we'll see what happens. And then I had another school in Toronto approach me to do that, and then when I told them how much we were going to charge for that, they was like, no, we were thinking of paying you this amount. I was like, dude, like that's next to nothing. Like if do you want help or do you not want help kind of thing.
So is it that these institutions are not having RMTs at the helm of creating the curriculum, or like, because I feel like I know with your school, they had a really good OSCE and like
Fleming.
being a community college, and then versus the Sutherland Chan, like both had really good OSCE, and I feel like RMTs were more at the helm of that. Is that the issue?
I think with those schools, it's just a different type of environment where their admission process is a little bit more loose. So then whoever they have in their class is a little bit less on the academic side. They struggle a little bit more as a student, and therefore they struggle, right? And then the numbers show. So then whoever runs the school is just like, we need our numbers up because this is how we can promote our school is with our numbers. But
I worked at a community college. I don't even think I mentioned that too. I did a 6-week stint where I somehow, never teaching my life, got an advanced anatomy and physiology teaching. That's why this. No, I'm joking. They were in a pinch, and they're like, "You seem to know enough. You worked at CMTO. Blah blah blah. You
seem to know enough. Come on in."
I was co-teaching actually, so she just couldn't do 2 days a week, and the way they work it, it's like you do a chunk and you move on to the next. So it's co-teaching, which was outrageous. I felt bad for the students. I was 6 weeks there, and it wasn't until the 4th week that I had access to the school portal for the information. It was like, I don't even know what I'm teaching you. Basically, the teacher was like, teach this chapter and this chapter and this chapter of Tutora. Like, there you go. And I'm like, okay, because we were co-teaching like opposite days. Right. So she'd teach Monday, and Monday afternoon she would text me and be like, I got this far. And I'm like, and I had never taught. I had no material. So I'd be working all day. I'd stay at my clinic until like 10 p.m. at night. And I'd come home and I'd be opening up my textbook. My husband's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm prepping for tomorrow's 8 a.m. class. And he's like, oh my God. And I was lucky enough that I had taken so much like post-secondary and done so much education. And I just come out of McMaster's acupuncture program that doing anatomy and physiology actually didn't feel like it was that difficult. I mean, I'd brush up on a few things, but for the most part, like, it's like I literally just reviewed this at Mac in like 5 months. That's right. Perfect, so I worked it okay, but like I found that, and when I worked at the CMTO, the same schools would come back with things like record keeping or professional misconducts. So they see it too. Like, and when I sat there, I'd be like, I bet I know what school this person came from, or like, I bet I know what year this person graduated in. Like, it was crazy.
It was that bad. Like, I know someone that she's an examiner, and she's the same. She's the same way. She's like, I know as soon as they start performing, I know what school you're from. I know it. And I feel sorry for you because you're probably going to fail this station.
Barcode you, so you don't have the bias, but you know it. Like, you can see it. So I mean, I'd like to say that everyone that was in my A&P like did pretty well. I was really shocked actually though. They were doing oral practical exams, so like landmarking, and they didn't put hands on people yet.
That I don't get.
So they're just like, so we're gonna do oral practical exams, like, oh, those are easy, right? Like, find a humorist, all right. They know what a humorist is, but they had never put their hands on anyone. So I'm like, we're scaling all the way. I'm like, I know I'm supposed to teach you about the upper extremity right now, but I'm like, I'm going to teach you how to actually find the bone you're looking for. Yeah. It was wild. And the teacher was like, yeah, they haven't put hands on people. I'm like, you didn't tell me that. Yeah. So I spent most of that 6 weeks actually like prepping them for the next semester where they were going in to actually massage people, because they hadn't even done that. They'd been in school a year and they had touched no people. It was crazy. I was like, I don't even know what's happening, which was so different from my education. But it was really nice to be there. I sat in a few exams. Like, they did a few like oral practical exams. Like, you want you wanna grade people? I'm like, yeah, sure, I qualify for that too. Great. I'm
this far, why not?
Absolutely. Like, I know the content in every station, right? So it was kind of funny, but yeah, no, it was wild, like, to what you said.
Yeah. I'm seeing a trend here. Like, first me at the gym, hey, you want to be a floor coach? I'm like, I'm 17, cool. You, hey, I want to be a massage teacher. Here's the massage room. Go at it.
Yeah, go for
You know
it.
what I mean?
Hey, you girl over there, you want to mark this exam? Yeah, right?
Yeah, for sure. And they were like in their last year, like on to be going to OSCE. Like they're gonna go write exams. So we were like pretty harsh on them. And watching them come in, I'm like, you finished this program? Like, I'm sitting there and they're like doing like, oh, like I'm doing like a C scoop on a gastroc. I'm like, what are you doing?
Oh.
Like, did you read the paper? Like, I'd be like, I'm just gonna have you go back and read that one more time. And then, like, we're going to start grading you. And I'm like, oh, no. And they knew the students. I'd be like, hey, like, who failed? And we were literally just, like, writing Fs on paper.
Yeah.
And it was like, oh, my God, this is horrible. Like, I would not feel comfortable telling you this person was ready.
Yeah.
I just had this discussion with a bunch of people that I was doing a business thing with yesterday, and we were talking about this because we were talking about affirmations. Like, it was our intro session where we do this whole change your mindset, change your practice type of thing. And I was telling him about one of the affirmations I used to do as a teacher, because no one knows this unless you're a teacher in massage school. We fucking hate marking oral practical exams. It's like the worst day in the fucking world. And a big reason why it's the worst day in the world is you know what a student's potential is. You've seen them do something a billion times. But now it's a test day and I'm going to have to sit here and watch you fuck it all up just because you're under pressure. And I know you can do this better because I just saw you do better yesterday, but I can only mark what's happening right here. So it's the worst day ever. And I just had this conversation. It's so fucking true.
Well, it's true. I was on the student side of that. I will forever remember that with that teacher, what you're saying, you know the potential of that student. And I was in there and like, I know I've shared it on our podcast. I don't know if I've shared it with you guys, but like I have anxiety disorder and panic attack disorder, and being put under pressure like that, and we were near the end of school, so you're just wiped at that point. I was like 12 months of it going straight 8 to 4 every day, working after all of that. And I was in an oral practical, and it was like with one of my favorite teachers, and he could see it on my face. Probably all the blood rushed out of my face, and just started sweating profusely and just staring at him. And he was like, just say what you need to say and you can go. And I was like, and I said it, and he's like, go. And like, I literally got to the bathroom and collapsed. Like, I started hyperventilating. That's the point I had to call to, my boyfriend to get support and talk me off the ledge. But like, I can see that, like, that would be the worst day. He's probably sitting there going like, I know you know this, like, I know you can do this. And like, I've had conversations with him, and he's like, hey, how are you feeling? You got a month before like you can graduate. And I'm like, I just want to be out there, like, I'm done here. And he's like, you're ready, you just need to follow the steps in the right process. Like, so
show
he
the
knew
people
where I
that
was
care
at.
outside of me.
So I can see how those are tough days from both
tough.
sides.
and then you just know the cycles of when everyone's going to go crazy. So like at the 6-month mark, people start to go a tiny bit crazy. At the 9-month mark, that jumps up. At the 12-month mark, that jumps up even more. And then when you're always like 3 months before you're finished, everyone is just fucking out of their minds, right? So you just know when the craziness hits. So when you have oral practical exams to mark in those crazy times, it's even worse, because that's when, it's a huge group of girls that are just crying all the time, right? That was the plus about going to massage school. If you're a single dude and you want to be around a bunch of girls, but the downside is when there's crazy moments, everyone is just in fucking tears.
Crazy and they're crying.
That sounds about right. So when did the podcast come into place in like all of that, like,
that was it.
Clinics.
That was it. It was that June 2018 so we got this space, like our Con Ed space, January 2018. It was another one of Mark's impulses. So
it works out though.
I'm very much like the behind the scenes person, right? Like, the guest that was here earlier on doing our podcast, he says he's learned to know who he's talking to, but like, when people email Con Ed, sometimes they're talking to me, sometimes they're talking to Mark. I do all the scheduling. I try to keep track of like business expenses, whatever. So I do a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, right? And Mark's the face, right? He teaches all the courses. He's the face. So, at the end of 2017, I was just crunching some numbers, and I said to him, did you ever actually look at the amount of money we're spending renting classroom spaces around the city? Like, have you ever actually looked at the amount we're spending? And I said, because based on this spending, I feel like we could probably have our own space and then be able to use it however we want. I even said, if it's big enough, I could have a treatment space. Like, why are we doing this? And then the person that we usually rented from, he had a meeting with Mark and wanted to increase our rent 200% for the next year. Because he saw how busy we were getting, right? We were doing great. And he's like, I can get more money out of these guys.
I would send him an email at the beginning of the year because Amanda does the course calendar for the year. And
so I do that in November. So we would email him the November before. We
have an idea of what's going to happen in the year and where we're going to go. And so since we're now doing courses all the time and we're renting space from this school, I sent him an email with all of these dates. I gave him 36 days. I'm like, can I get the room reserved these 36 days? He's like, let me get back to you. And then he gets back to me. He's like, yeah, okay, no problem, but your rent is going up per day.
Which is expected. We had been, but the amount he wanted to increase our rent 200%. So at that point, I said to Mark, "This makes no sense. Maybe I'm out to lunch."
It gets even worse. So I'm like, okay, sure. Let's just do that because at this point we have no. And so he says yes, no problem. I don't know why I decided to go onto the RMTAO site that day because I know the RMTAO also rents from this guy whenever Aaron Rudder does his courses. And so now I'm looking at the RMTAO's education section and I'm like, what the fuck? Aaron Rudder's doing a course at this place the same day that I gave to do a course at this place. And this motherfucker 2 days ago just told me like I've got these classes. And so that's when I'm like, fuck this. So I called him up and I'm like, you know what, man, thanks but no thanks, I'm out. And then
so remember now, this is November 2017. And we're starting running courses second week of January 2018.
Oh, God.
So we're like, we got to find a space.
We just burnt our bridge for our space.
Yeah, we're like, we got to find a space. And at this point, it's not like I had looked around and I said, maybe I'm out to lunch. Maybe like renting our own commercial space is not within our budget. So anyway, I've got now a newborn baby and it's freezing cold. I think it was like -30 this one day that we were at.
That was a very cold winter.
It was a really cold winter.
That was one of the winters
and so we went out probably 3 or 4 times total looking at different places. And anyway, basically, within a few weeks, we had made a decision. This is where we're going. We're getting this space.
You know what the funny thing is? Every time we get a space, like we're buying a house or we're looking, we always get a realtor, fine, but then we always end up doing it ourselves. Like when we bought our house, I didn't use my realtor for anything other than like you do all the fucking paperwork. I would do it if I know how, but I don't. And same thing with our commercial realtor. I was like, I found the places, you go get the keys and let's go see it. So we did that a bunch of different places and we found here and then we came in here the first time. I was like, this is great. And plus we live like literally like 3 minutes down the road from here. It's insane. And I grew up like my parents are still just right up the street. So we know the neighborhood really, really well. So we looked at this place. We're like, this is fucking awesome. And then the price was really fucking good on paper. We didn't realize that there was actually the decimal place was in the wrong spot. But it's not till we went to sign papers. And stuff.
Even moving the decimal point, it still the value
really
was there.
Yeah,
so we were okay
kicking
with
around
it.
between a couple different places. And I remember because our realtor was just like an asshole, like not a nice guy. And so I called him up. I'm like, I want to go see that place again.
False. He wasn't an asshole. I'm not certain if
was he an asshole or you the asshole?
If he was all there. He was really out to lunch. Like we saw this place, we liked it. We saw another place. So Mark actually liked the other place better. I liked this place better. And so all we wanted to do, I just wanted to get Mark back in here because I was like, I don't think you're actually remembering it correctly.
I was not.
You were not, because he kept picturing it much smaller than it is. I was like, no, trust me, this is the better option. Yeah. And so anyway, we wanted to come back and see it. So I call this guy and he's given us this whole runaround. And I said, all I need you to do is get that goddamn door unlocked. Like, how hard is this? Anyway,
fuck it. I just drove up.
He just drove here. The door was open.
The door was open. I just walked in. I'm like looking around all over the place. And then I walked. There was another unit that we were also looking at. I walked in that one too. I'm looking around. I'm like, no, this one's better. And then we called him up like, okay, let's just do this.
Yes.
Yeah. So we didn't even really involve him. It was such a.
It was.
I'm like, why does this motherfucker get commission? You should give me the fucking commission on that.
Well, so that was impulse number one. So then, like I said, so when June 2018 came along and now there's no more CEUs, we're like, we just signed a 5-year lease and now we don't have a business? Like, what the? Yeah. So Mark had been kicking around the idea of doing a podcast for a while. I actually didn't even really understand podcasts. Like, I was like, what is that? What does that mean? Like, what are you talking about? So, but he wanted to do it.
The original idea for the podcast, though, was a post-course wrap-up show, right? So you take a course with us. Anyone that wants to stay back and talk about the course, what they liked, what they didn't like, how they're going to use it in their practice, they don't think it's useful, whatever. Just give some feedback and let's talk about the course. And that never happened because everyone's face at the end of a weekend of doing a course is like, I just want to go home.
You know, you know how you felt at the end of the virtual education day? Yeah. Like we would ask people, do you want to stay back and do this? And everyone was like, can we just do it another time? Like they're beat after learning all weekend.
It never happened that way.
No. So then, then that's basically...
it was meant to promote the courses, right?
Yeah. Right. So when this happened, it was very fast. Like we got the email from the college June 6th and our first episode went out June 13th. Yeah. It was just very fast. He said, let's do the podcast because this is another way to make sure that we don't just fizzle away, you know, like keep ourselves out there.
At that time, it wasn't the big podcast influx that's now, right?
No, we didn't know what was going to come of this.
We were right in there right before it got super, super popular to have a podcast. And then we originally were kicking around the idea, like, we need to do a whole bunch of videos. And then we killed that quick. We're like, we're just going to get lost in a sea of videos because everybody is doing videos. And we're just going to be another group of people that are doing videos on the same stuff that everyone's doing videos on. So we're like, let's pick another medium that makes sense. And so podcasting made the most sense. And then I started researching podcasts. I'm like, this is perfect. This is us. This makes the most sense. And on top of that, there's the psychology that comes around with audio that's not there on video, right? When someone hears you over and over for enough amount of time, they feel like they really fucking know you really well. Versus if they're watching you in a video, it doesn't translate the same. So once we put all that together, we're like, this is what we're doing. Let's do it. And then we just started spitting out content like crazy.
And I know that I've told Heather this story, but I don't know if Nicole's ever heard it. It was basically like, he said to me one day, should we start this podcast now? I said, yes, we should. And he went to work. I was home with the kids. And he comes home and he's like, well, I recorded the first episode. You want to hear it? And I was like, what? 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 I guess we're doing this, eh? Okay. The only thing I take credit for is I came up with the name.
I was going to say, who came up with the name? I've always wondered
that. Was me.
That's awesome. I love
when
it.
He said, he's like, what should we call this? And I was like, the only thing I keep thinking of is like, I'm like, you know that Beck song, 2 turntables and a microphone? He's like, yeah, obviously I do. I'm like, well, I just keep thinking, you know, we're 2 massage therapists. Let's be 2 massage therapists and a microphone. And that was it. And we just started recording content. We had no idea where it was going to go. Yeah. And then
originally it was still about the courses though. Like the first one that we did was like, it was based on our business course. I mean, they're not the greatest episodes, but
well, that first one that I was on, because we didn't have childcare.
You did episode number 3.
I recorded episode number 3 in my bed.
Yeah,
with a headset and my phone.
Nice.
So the audio quality wasn't fantastic.
It was just a different vibe. And then we started having guests. And again, originally was to promote the courses. Our first guest was like a reflexology instructor to talk about how great reflexology is, right? To plug the courses.
We had the pelvic health instructors on. It was very...
But then it expanded out really fast.
And in the beginning, we would only have one of us here. So it would be one of us interviewing a guest. And then at some point, Mark said, well, I think we can have all of us. And then we all came in. And then we started getting all of this really nice feedback. You guys work really well together. Yeah. And we were like, okay, I guess this is what we're doing. We're gonna both be here.
Oh, it's perfect being open and fluid to whatever came of it. I feel like we're in the spot now.
What about you guys? Yeah, tell me.
I was gonna say, I feel like we're in the spot now as like how you guys are looking back now going, oh, one day hopefully we'll look back and go, oh, but that's okay.
This is the episode like 13 or something?
Yeah, 12.
Yeah, but you guys are doing great. You probably didn't hear this when they came in. They just hit something like 1,000 downloads. And like, you guys are so new. Like, that's amazing.
Yeah, like really just started since being on your podcast. I left and I was like, I really loved it. I'm not gonna lie, when I showed up here, I was a nervous wreck. I was also going through stuff and whatever, and I was a nervous wreck. But when I left, I was like, I feel amazing. I feel like I'm on top of the world. I want to do this. And then when we started working together, we would just like, if I popped in the office to pick something up and I knew it was her break, I would be like, oh, it's just going to be 5 minutes. And an hour later, I'm leaving because we wouldn't stop talking about whatever massage related.
Right. Yeah.
And we both, and being like you in the education side, and I would love to enter that field one day. My idea was always to teach anatomy. I love anatomy. It's my thing. I nerd out on it. And so then it just kind of like developed, and I was like, we should start a podcast. And then my partner was like, you need to start a podcast. He's very much like, go do it. Jump in. And then we'd been talking about it for like 5 or 6 months, and then literally COVID hit, and we were like, while we're home,
what else are we gonna do?
I think
let's do it 10 p.m. We ain't got anything to do tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think our first episode we were in person.
Yes.
Actually, our first episode
we were,
and then we re-record
because it didn't work out. So we re-recorded
What didn't work out about it?
The audio. One of them cut out.
Okay.
Yeah,
it was not.
So maybe
great.
it wasn't. Maybe I never heard the first episode.
It's the introduction, like
we're just kind of our background.
We kind of just talk about.
I'm not gonna lie, it's our best listened to episode.
People apparently just want to know who we are.
I gotta go back and listen because I don't remember listening to you guys until you were definitely not in person.
Yeah. No, the first one, and then
the second one we weren't in person after that because it was COVID. But it was like, well, we'll just figure this out, and then I had access to the post-production software, and I'm gonna start learning to edit. And I'm somebody, I guess, maybe a little bit more like Mark, where it's like, if I'm in, I'm all in. And I'm binging YouTube videos, reading every article I can read, and like how to do this. And if I'm like in the program and I'm stuck, it's like, I want to do this. How do I do? Like, I'm that kind of person. So then it just.
I love those people. I'm not those people.
Yeah, I'm like, you know it. You can go for it. Like all of that.
Like I'm frustrated. Not like our headsets didn't work earlier, and I'm like, I gotta go home and figure out why they didn't work. That's the type of person.
That is Mark. I truly. It's funny because I use the excuse of like, well, I've got 2 kids and whatever, and I don't have time to do all this. Let's be honest. If I didn't have kids, I might still not be that person.
Right? Yeah. I'm like, I see you have a passion, so I'm gonna let you go do that, and I'm gonna be over here doing whatever else. Yeah, it was really funny. We just were like, maybe somebody wants to listen to us talk about this. And my husband too, being like, you should probably just record it now. He's like all in.
Yeah, he's all in. He's like, when are we making money on
way
this?
To make money so I can retire. I'm like, wait, you retire? If I'm making the money on the podcast, I'm retiring. Like what? But yeah, it's kind of funny. And we've just randomly we had someone message us. They wanted to be on it.
Nice.
And it just snowballed from there. It was very strange. We didn't think anybody would say yes to being on it. And now we have Friends We Know Network.
It's the trippiest fucking thing.
It is, and it's so strange because we just had Brittany on. Yep. And I've known her since school, and I was like, "Do you want to be on this and talk about work from your home clinic and stuff?" Yeah. She's like, "Yeah." And then she sat down and she's like, "Watch, we're in my bedroom with 2 laptops, nothing's working." And she's like, "It's so crazy, just watching you do this. They think it's some big thing." And we're like, "Can you hear me? Can you hear me?" And, it was so funny. And she's like, "Oh my god, it's such a thing." And I was showing her you have these many listens and stuff. Yeah. She's like, "That's so amazing."
I'm all about the numbers.
Nicole. And I was just like, yeah. And she's like, "How many? 1,000 people have listened to you talk." I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know why." Yeah.
It's so you know what's the trippiest part to me is when you're looking for a guest and you just reach out to somebody like, "Hey, I got this little podcast. Would you like to be a guest?" And they're like, "Sure."
And they're like,
"Come to my house." I'm like, this is weird behavior, right? At least I think it's weird. If some random dude called me up and said, "Hey, you're a massage therapist. I got a massage therapy podcast. You want to do a record?" I'd be like, "What?"
Yeah. No, but people are still yes, absolutely. I want to be there.
It's really strange to me. I mean, I'm very thankful for it, but I think it's also odd. We this dude, we talked about him today, Brian Fulton. He lives in St. Catharines, and he wrote a book. His book is the placebo effect, right? And so I just sent him a message like, "Hey man, would you like to be on a podcast and you can talk about your book and blah blah. It's really interesting stuff." And he's like, "Sure, come on over to my house." And then we're hanging around his kitchen. I'm like, I don't know you. It's trippy to me.
That was such a great day.
It's trippy to me.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's a weird forum and place I never thought I'd be in. Actually, I was just saying, so because we hit 1,000 listens, I decided to change my Instagram to add podcaster on there because now I'm a big time podcaster.
Right?
Yeah. Kind of a big deal.
I grow humans and I make podcasts now. I guess that's what I do. It's been really fun. Yeah, and she got me she's one who introduced me to your podcast. So because I just used to listen to audiobooks when I was at work, so I don't have time to read. So I just listened to audiobooks, and then she's like, "You need to listen to these podcasts." My husband is really into podcasts, so I was like, I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what I'm doing. And then that sort of trickled. So you guys were literally the first actual podcast I ever decided to really listen to, and not just turn after 5 minutes.
So do you guys listen to podcasts now that you
I can't stop
you
listening.
Can't stop?
Yeah.
I listen to everything.
I was telling her I'm glad we're back to work because I have time now, because listening to a podcast with a toddler screaming Paw Patrol in the background does not work out well.
Do you ever get scared that by listening to podcasts, it's going to start to influence what you guys do and how you do it?
A little, yeah. But
Has
I
it
tried
at all?
I'd say here and there, but I want to say more like inspire, like, oh, okay, oh, I like how they did it, so like maybe I'll take that and twist it somehow, and they're doing that, like things like that. We're just, my spouse and I are podcast junkies. Like this week when we went like up to visit friends, it was like an hour, 2-hour drive, and it was like, okay, podcast on, like, and we'll listen to everything and anything, and I make him listen to massage ones.
I was gonna say, I remember when you were a guest on our podcast, you told us that he had listened to us as well, because you would just put it on in the house while you're cleaning, and so he has no choice but to listen to. Although we do.
I listen to a lot of talk radio.
Yes, you do.
I don't listen to a lot of podcasts, and one of the reasons why I don't is because I don't want to hear stuff and influence what I'm doing here. I don't want that at all.
Yeah, like so all of our
but a lot of
friends in the industry who have massage therapy podcasts, we listen to snippets. So like I'll listen to Suru for a little bit. I'll listen to you guys for a little bit. I'll listen to Connor for a little. You know, like I want to hear a little bit. Krista, we've listened. Oh right, Dom's. I feel bad. Dom's. I haven't listened to him in a really long time.
I don't think he's put one out.
I don't think he's put one out in a really long time. So that's fair. Yeah. But yeah, I don't binge a lot of podcasts really. I'll listen to like here and there, just especially if I see something that you guys put out that I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like you were talking about Brittany, right away I was going to say, oh, work from home, because I saw that and I'm like, I want to hear that because post-COVID, I feel like people who have people coming into their home, I'm like, you got a whole other thing going on than we do. And, you know, those of us who don't work from home. So I want to listen to her experience.
Yeah, she's good. Like, I've known her forever. So as soon as we were talking about, because we want to do something COVID related, like we were trying actually while COVID was happening to not talk about COVID. That was like our only theme of during any podcast was like, let's not talk about this. We wanted it to be something that was distraction from all of that. To not think about it, because there's already so much happening on the internet, and I was like, I just don't even want to deal with that.
Yeah, had CP24 on, like so give them a break from that.
Let's not be that. And then we're like, we need to address it, I guess, in some way, shape, or form. Let's talk about like.
I think it was when we got the announcement to go back,
and
then
like, okay,
like seeing everything on Facebook, and then in the being part of the group, the CBN. All of the like confusion and chaos and frustration and anger and scared. I was like, okay, maybe we should
talk about it.
Yeah, and maybe put some like organization and like this is what we're doing. Who knows if it'll work in your clinic, but maybe it will give them something to think about and like, oh, that'll work for me, or no, that won't work, but you know, things like that, and give some comfort that it's okay. And if you're not ready to go back, don't go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you. That's kind of our model. And do what you need to do to keep sane and be happy. That's all that matters, really. So.
You guys sound really natural on your podcast. That's why.
Do we?
Yeah,
oh my God,
do.
I don't feel natural.
I can't even listen to myself. Like
really?
If she sends me to listen to edit, and I like the whole time. Like I probably will listen to this one for like 5 minutes and be like, it sounds good.
I am you. He brings these home to edit, and he'll be like, oh, listen to this part, and then I start talking. I'm like, can you shut her up? I don't want to.
Other woman.
I'm like,
I hate that woman.
Who wants to? Like, why have people listen to this? And my husband will put it on sometimes just to annoy me at the table. He'll press play, and I'm just like, no, like don't do this to me. And my son will be like, Mama, and I'm like, no.
Thankfully, we swear too much, so he doesn't play it in front of our kids
good,
at home.
It sounds like just very natural, free flowing stuff. It's like when I'm listening to something like this, I personally just don't like anything that feels like overly produced, overly scripted, that type of thing. So I can't do it. One, because the audio quality is freaking horrible. I mean, it's an audio platform. Just do fucking audio right. Like, how hard is this? And if you're gonna enter into an audio platform, make sure you're doing it right. But I just can't listen to it because it's just so peachy, squeaky. You know, everything's like, thanks for having me on. This is great. And that's a really good question. Like, you know,
I try to find a good balance, because sometimes I'm going into it and I'm like, I really want to ask these questions, because like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm mistreating people, and I'm like, even today I was treating people and I was like, oh, I gotta ask them this question. I really want to know the answer, their opinion on this, right? So I want to make sure those questions are in, but I also want to keep it natural. And there's times that I'm like, okay, I'm gonna ask them this question, and it just doesn't come flow. It doesn't come out, and it's like, all right, well, maybe I'll just ask them off mic, and that's my own personal.
I started to just interrupt people. Seriously, I started, like, if I have a question and I'm thinking, let's take the podcast down this road, you're mid-sentence, I'm just gonna be like, and then I just ask it, and then and see what happens, because I will forget. Like Amanda,
usually he interrupts me.
Yeah, we have notebooks, and we'll have like notes down. That was I think what tripped Brittany out is I was like, I have a few questions. I have my notebook. She's like, oh, and she's like, me too. And she holds up, and Brittany's like, what is happening?
Well, and especially we have our notes for like our peer reviewed series, which is what really kicked off our podcast. Was that, and like we were kind of saying with you, it was Nicole was like listening to the one, I think you were talking about a lot of relaxation, and you were kind of talking maybe a little negatively to it. I
think you said it was like fluff, and immediately I was like,
she hates that word.
I hate it.
She's like,
and I was like, but Mark, but I agree with you so much. Like, what are you talking about right now?
But that's kind of what started. It was like, well, maybe we should be like peer reviewing, and like maybe we listen to a podcast and have our rebuttal on it. Because I think there was another one that was kind of, you guys recorded, and it was kind of out there, and I think I sent it to her. I was like, I have notes. Like, listen, I have
Was
notes.
it possibly the conspiracy theory podcast?
Might have been. I'm like, I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I have notes, and we need to discuss this now. So then that just developed into like, okay,
how do we make this our own? Like, what do we want to talk about here? Like, is anyone else?
I'm not gonna lie, my partner was like, maybe don't review other people's material and like that right now. Don't start that way. Maybe start with like article review, because that was on the list. Like,
I like
do you want an article
but
and
I even
review
like
it?
the people's review stuff. Oh, that's fucking great.
Maybe down the road, we were like, let's just like test the waters.
You don't know that's what this is. We're gonna post edits and review it.
That's true.
I like that though, because if you listen to us regularly, you'll hear me say something, and then 3 episodes later, I've changed my tune on it, right? Because part of why we do this is education.
Yes.
And sometimes I might think something, and then I even listen to it back, and I'm like, So a good example is I was very, very gung-ho on, sorry, Clarence, if you ever hear this, I still really like you, but I was very gung-ho on Clarence's side when it came to the job ads that were specifically asking for female RMTs. I still agree with him on the fact that, yes, that is legally not correct, but I was really gung-ho on his side, because I was like, why is it that, we can't do that to women, and blah, 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 blah. But then after listening to it and having other people give comments, I was like, I see where the women are coming from, in the sense that, like, literally men have every opportunity in the fucking world. And this is like the one thing where it's like, we prefer a female. And like, yeah, I know I'm sort of backpedaling now, and maybe I'm a little more on the feminist side on this one. Whereas before, like during the episode, I was like, nope, sorry, women, you're wrong. Yeah. And then I changed my mind. And with the relaxation stuff, like how you were saying, Mark used the word fluff. Mark actually doesn't dislike relaxation treatments, which is interesting. It might have worked in that episode, and it was a word he used, but that's why this is fun, because then it can spark a discussion. Yes. And I know I've said things on the podcast, and then I listen back later and I cringe, because I'm like, oh, that's not the point I was trying to make, and it read as this, and that's going to get me some hate. Whoopsie. Yeah.
And that was it. It was like, I had never gotten that from that one from you, that it was just, you hated that people just like go in and just rubs them on, and they don't have any backing to it. You know what I mean? Like, they don't use education. But I just remember, like, why do we have to call it that? Like, why don't, you know what I mean? Like, why don't we just call that not relaxation? Like, why does it have to be that word? And that was well, and you weren't the only one. We were in a meeting, and I was talking in networking with other RMTs, and she said it fluff to me, and she's like, oh, I don't do fluff. And I'm like, what does that mean?
Instead of getting like, yeah, exactly, I was like, well, what do you mean by fluff? What does that mean? And it taught me too that there are RMTs and clinics out there that are maybe like a more short term, like you're coming in with an acute or a chronic, could be like subchronic, let's say, and it's a more of a short term fix. And okay, I'll get you to this point, and then I'll see you whenever that flares up again or something else comes. And then there's clinics more like Nicole and mine, where it's like, I want to see my client from beginning till they die. I do. I want to see them through every season of their life.
That's me.
Yeah. That's what I want to see, because I might catch something, and Nicole has some crazy stories with that, but I might catch something that maybe other practitioners won't catch and things like that, because I've seen you in your lowest low. I've seen you at your highest high. I've seen you through, having babies and getting married or buying houses or job changes, whatever it is. That's what I want. So it was just learning that, like, and there's a spot for both types of clinics and both types of practitioners in this world.
And that's what I love about your podcast, is that you don't just necessarily talk about massage. You talk about like a whole bunch and how like people in massage therapy aren't just massage therapists. They have lives outside of that, which I really love. Like, you have a few on that. The last one, I forget her name, that went into the dominatrix like that. I was like, this is amazing. And my husband's like, what are you listening to right now? He's like, don't you guys just want to separate from them? Like, what I love about it is that RMTs can have like a life and still understand. You know what I mean? Anyways, I was just like, this is fantastic.
It was just like when you did your whole series on the body rub parlors and everything. I was starting to talk about it, and they're like, why are you interested in that? I'm like, because I don't know. I just find it cool, this whole other side. And why are people approaching me? And like the fact that, you found out that like you can have a license for a body rub, that made me feel a little bit more empowered as an RMT to be like, I'm not what you're looking for. There are, go find those. And that's fine.
Yeah, that series, I was really... I was timid. I didn't know if I wanted to do it, but I found I learned so much from that, because it also even makes sense. Like the guys that are so fucking brazen and will walk in here and just literally spew out like, do you offer happy endings? I'm like, well, as much as you're gross, no thank you. But there are places that do that. And it's not that we didn't know that they existed, but now we know that, there's these legal ones, there's these illegal ones, and what they do. It was so eye-opening. I really enjoyed doing that.
I feel like it's better to like know the other side
oh, for sure.
than be ignorant to it.
And not talking about it doesn't make it go away.
No.
Which I think is what RMTs, massage have been doing for so long, especially with that topic. Let's just not talk about it, and maybe like we won't be associated with the thing. And it's like, how about we do talk about it and talk about how very different we are, so people like the edge, like that whole piece. So that's what I like about your guys' podcast. Is I'm like, I love talking about this. Like, why are we doing this?
Because in this field, you can talk about anything. It's all going to be related to a patient or client, because they're just people, and therefore anything is fair game. Like the dude, like the crackhead that he's recovered. I shouldn't say it like that. The former crack addict. Like, well, we should understand this stuff as the therapist. So
and
it makes sense to talk about.
Have life like working at the CMTO. Like massage therapists are not like these cookie cutter people at all. They come from all different walks, all different backgrounds, and that's what's really cool about our profession is you can find a therapist for you who relates you on like some weird, strange level that you had like no idea anyone else knew. Like we saw it all the time there. And I mean, when I saw them it was because something bad had happened, but like nonetheless, what you learned is like that people have these like full wholesome lives, right? Like it was like when you're a kid and you see your teacher at the grocery store, you're like, you buy groceries, right? Like that kind of like
you
phenomenon.
don't live at the school.
Like, you have families and kids and wives, so it was like that whole thing. So I think we just wanted to like jumble around like ideas in our head, and we just. Yeah, you guys, we've listened to I listened to a few. I listened to like 2 massage podcasts, and then the rest, because I work all day, the rest are all like mom podcasts. So it's kind of like
Well, to jump on the not making it overly produced, I do have those questions that I was thinking.
Ask away, Heather.
These are things that, and it's kind of I'm posing it to everybody, because like with the Kim backgrounds and like you have such an education background and rooted in the science. What I want to know what your thoughts are with all of these claims, or like I don't even know what to call them, coming forward. You're hearing the posture doesn't cause pain, no more icing, like these kinds of things that are coming out, and I'm feeling like there is some reason behind it, but it's kind of like just wanting to go the extreme the other way to combat the ice everything. You know what I mean?
We have a lot of opinions on these things.
Good. I felt like it.
Okay, so here it is we're both huge fans of research, and I 100% like think that there has to be empirical evidence for certain things. But we had this discussion with the therapist that was here earlier about how there's also something called using just basic knowledge of science, right? Concepts that have always existed. So the posture and pain argument, we've talked about it on our podcast before. And yes, you're absolutely right. Your posture does not cause your pain. Like you cannot say that. You cannot say that confidently your posture is causing your pain. Is posture a factor in the whole big picture of things? Yes. You cannot just remove your knowledge of biomechanics and basic science. You go.
No,
you talk.
You're absolutely right.
Well, I was gonna say I think you did have a guest on once that kind of was really combating that, saying like you can't think of the body like as a biomechanic thing, and I was like, you're talking to two kinesiologists.
Yeah, I mean, some of that stuff doesn't.
You will notice, because since we're talking about our podcast and our format, you will notice whatever guest we have on, we don't get confrontational.
No.
We let them give their side of it, because how can anybody learn or change their opinion if they don't get to fully hear? So me arguing what I think to this person doesn't make any sense. I will say, I understand your opinion. I might present something slightly different, but okay, what you're saying makes sense. Okay, I understand it. Sure.
You can't take research like that and then start putting blanket statements, because that doesn't make sense to me.
That's
right?
my issue.
So, for example, when you start talking about the idea of posture and pain, fine, there might not be a direct correlation, or there might be a direct causation between posture and pain, but they are going to be associated. Now, I don't know about you guys, but my practice is not about everyone that's in pain. I mean, not all of my patients come in or clients come in here like, I'm in pain. Sometimes it's about performance, and posture and alignment affects performance. Yeah. Okay, that's just basic fucking biomechanics. That's just basic levers, moment arms, and resistance arms. And when you change the length of a moment arm and resistance arm, you change the force capability of that muscle. That's all there is to it. I remember I got into it on Facebook with some dude, and he sent me a video of like a world-class weightlifter who has scoliosis, and look what he can do. And my only response was, imagine if he didn't have scoliosis. Yeah. Right? So, I mean, and then the idea with posture and asymmetries are normal. Yes, asymmetries are normal, right? But then there are some asymmetries that make you want to scratch your fucking head. Right? So, yes, my two shoulder joints work independently of each other. And if one can move 20 degrees in a given direction and the other one can't, I can still function in life, and that's no big deal. Well, when you take a look at a temporomandibular joint, two bilateral joints that work simultaneously, symmetry fucking matters.
Yep.
Right? So you can't just throw it all away just because this study is showing someone that has a hyperlordosis and their MRI shows herniated discs and they're not presenting on a subjective pain scale, and then you throw away the whole concept of looking at balance and posture. Right? That's what I'm talking about. So when Amanda says the idea of like basic science, like I don't know if you heard Angela's talk on the live stream thing, right? She did the whole thing about breathing. Yeah. And then there was one RMT that kept saying, can you show me the research for this? And she's like, yes.
It's physiology.
It's physiology. Like go look at it's basic foundational physiology. And so like the dude we had in here today, I'm like, I understand research and I understand the importance of research, but I don't understand the misinterpretation of research or the need for research to find the answer to absolutely everything when foundational information is already there and they answer everything. Do I need a research paper that shows me if I hold a flame to a newspaper, it's going to cause a fire? No. Absolutely not. I take the basic concept of combustion and energy transfer, and I can put it together myself. And I feel like a lot of RMTs would be like, show me the evidence that if you hold that flame to the newspaper, it will ignite. I'm like, you're not going to find a study in that because it's just foundational fucking science, right?
Yeah, that's part of why I don't engage in the research discussions online, because as much as, yes, I agree with your research, I read the study, I understand it, but you are eliminating so many other factors and you're ignoring everything else. And this study is not gold. And it seems like there's certain people that every time somebody says something, they're throwing up the same like 4 studies. And I'm like, I've already seen this. I already know this. So I just bow out.
Yeah. It's like the blanket statements is like a huge issue, because then I find it becomes a game of telephone. You know, somebody like ourselves who are professionals understand, and we give this blanket statement, and then to that client then goes and tells their family and this, and the guy at the gym and this, and that happens all the time. With,
and then suddenly his trigger points don't exist.
Exactly. Exactly. Like, the one I always give is my partner. He's turned out like a 10 and 2. And like all through school, it was, I'm like, why is he doing this? What test can I do? And I'd come home and I'd, test it and try to figure out, until his mom said he was born breech, footling breech. A lot of footling breech have a turnout at the hip, the acetabulum and everything doesn't, like, it just is in a different position. Whenever he went to the gym and would do squats, he would get approached all the time. You need to have your knees pointed straight. You have to have your knees pointed straight all the time. And he would be in so much pain because him turning his feet straight causes him a lot of hip pain.
Yeah, of course.
And so I said to him, like, and again, it's back to this posture. And there's this efficient posture, but the efficient posture has to match the person. Right? His efficient posture is a turnout. And I said, keep doing it because you're going to cause yourself more pain and more problems and probably osteophytes and and more arthritis down the line if you're not doing it in the range that your hips are actually. And I explained to him what happened. And so that's always my issue, because then it's like, these blanket statements, if you're not educating your client, it doesn't stop at your client. It goes to I hear it all the time. I hear it. Oh my gosh.
My mother-in-law told me that her chiropractor said that.
Well, this is the thing is like the example you brought up is the perfect one. So the RMTs that are arguing, the asymmetries and perfect alignment and perfect posture don't affect performance. Well, in certain cases. So like you said, with your partner, it doesn't make sense for him to point his toes forward and do a squat. He's only hurting himself, really. But in Mark's example with the weightlifter, sure, he can lift those weights with the scoliosis, but imagine if he didn't have the scoliosis. So
he'd be able to go.
Yeah, I mean, it can't be a blanket statement. There are certain circumstances, and that study was probably meant to show that not everybody with faulty posture experiences pain, and not everybody who is experiencing pain has any faulty posture. That's it.
And then what ends up happening is a bunch of RMTs say, you know what, I'm not even going to bother assessing or looking at posture because what's the fucking point? I'm like, no, you missed the whole, you missed the point, right?
You have to correlate, like, are they coming in saying this hurts? And you see that their shoulders are like this and they have neck pain. Yeah, okay. But if they're like this and they're like, I'm no pain. Okay, I might still check it out. But like, I might be looking at more. It's not my go-to and I'm zoning in on this. And I don't know.
Fascial tissue can't be stretched, one of those.
Oh, yeah. There's that one. That's what started our peer review piece. It's just like, we're like, what is happening here? So we're like, we like all the science, but I've often said, like, I'm definitely like, if you can't find the science, but I see that it works, like, I'm down. And I do acupuncture, and I will tell you, at Mac, the instructor, he is a sports medicine doctor from Spain. Like, he teaches acupuncture to like the U.S. military, like super educated human being. Like, when you stand there and he talks, you kind of feel like I just learned like 80 years of information in one conversation type of person. And he was literally like, go out, do the needles, watch it work. I can give you 500 studies. You need to just go and do it, right? He's like, sometimes there is no evidence, but we see it happen. He's like, I don't know what everyone's problem is with just accepting that sometimes this stuff works. Like, what's the issue, right? Like,
or it's just sometimes a misinterpretation. Like everyone that fascial tissue can't be stretched. Okay, guess what? I never fucking said I was trying to stretch fascial tissue, right? I'm just trying to increase the pliability of the tissue. I never said. So the same reason you're telling me I shouldn't do fascial techniques because I'm not stretching fascial tissue. I'm not physiologically stretching the fascial tissue. Well, guess motherfucker. Guess what? You're the same person that's giving all of your people stretches and you stretch yourself. Are you physiologically changing the component, the makeup of the muscular tissue by stretching it? You are absolutely not. So, in the same reason why you still give stretches and you still do stretches is the same reason why I'm still doing fascial work, right?
Absolutely.
If you're going to hold what you're saying true about the fascial work, then you should never fucking do a stretch ever again.
Well, and that study was only looking at the one I think you're referring to, where it's like you need something like 10,000 pounds of pressure, whatever it is, to stretch fascia, but it was only thinking of or working with the fascia. The fascia has so much more, the nerve innervation that it is involved all around, and with the muscles, like we have to remember we're a body, we're a makeup of systems, not just not just skin. I'm only affecting the skin. Like, that has to always be. You just reminded
me of the other issue I have with the research is the focus on semantics. As you're saying, okay, there needs to be 10,000 pounds or whatever to permanently change fascial tissue. Okay, as Mark said, we're not claiming to be stretching fascial tissue, but it's, if you even say those words, like we want to lengthen the fascia, stretch the fascia, immediately you've got people jumping down your throat saying that's a dangerous statement to make. I'm like, oh dear God. For one thing, our clients don't give a shit what we call it. We could say, I'm going to do a new technique called rainbow brushing. And they'll be like, okay, cool. What's that going to do? Is it going to work? Am I going to feel good? Like,
I love rainbow brushing.
Exactly. Like, nobody cares as much about the language as therapists do. So I don't
even think most therapists fucking care.
I'm talking about the group that does. Yeah, exactly.
I think there's like this big of a group that cares. 15,000 fucking people. There's this much that cares.
Like Heather was saying, I think I know which episode she was referring to of the person who was really like throwing biomechanics out the window. That was an episode. I mean, I enjoyed talking to him. He's a nice guy, whatever. But that was one where I actually did cringe at myself quite a few times because I was just, I was agreeing with him, but afterwards I was like, oh, I didn't actually totally agree with that. Oh, I didn't really. Yeah. And he had a really big focus on language. And on one hand, I agree with that, where we have to, yes, you don't have to be super scientific and use jargon with your clients, but also making sure that you're not saying blanket statements either. And you're not saying, this is what we're doing and this is why it's going to work and whatever. My clients understand I'm somewhat of a mechanic. Okay. We're going to assess something. I'm going to determine what structures are involved, what we might need to work on, what I think is going to happen. Let's see what happens. Then we reassess. And I'm never saying like, this is what you have and this is what I'm going to do. So like, I'm with him on that. But the other thing, I'm like, now you're just nitpicking, like I feel like sometimes people are just nitpicking because it's like, well, the research doesn't show that this does this. I'm like, oh dear God.
Yeah. And like, there has to be a balance between the empirical, double blind studies and what you see in the clinic. Like there is not a lot of around cupping. We both do cupping, like a lot of compared to other studies. But there's a reason it's been around for as long as it's been around. And I am a straight case. I couldn't raise my arm more than like 100 degrees in abduction. One treatment with tons of pain. One treatment, I could have 180 degrees with no pain. And
We've
I only
literally had this conversation. Yeah.
I've had 2 treatments and like it. So it's also taking that and saying to your client and being upfront, like, this is the clinical experience I have. This is what I've seen in the clinic. There might not be a lot of science right now backing it up. I also think, sometimes the funding goes to things that are maybe more risky.
Yeah, you guys discussed this on the episode, the difference between the clinical findings and the research findings. That is important. Yeah. And I think the funny thing is I think actually most of us agree on these things, but it's just for some reason human nature these days to argue because the same people who are preaching the research are also the same people that love to say biopsychosocial and love to talk about dermoneuromodulation. So you understand that a person isn't just a body. You understand there's a whole person. You understand the nervous system. So when you're telling me this study shows that pain and posture aren't related, I'm like, well, on what? Well, that person? Maybe on this person it is. Like, let's calm the F down here.
Yeah. That's how we feel.
Absolutely.
It's just massage therapy, people.
Yeah, just relax a little.
That's when you're saying, popped into my head, we're just about being a mechanic. We're just body troubleshooters. Like, that's really all we are.
We're trying to we've got a billion different tools in our tool belt because that's all you ever heard through school. And we're just trying to figure out with this person in front of me, this body, with what they're presenting with, what do I know that either, yes, there's research behind, or I've seen it work in clinic. Like I love to bring up on the podcast that I do reflexology because I love to hear the eyes rolling. And I've seen it work. I've seen myself that, I've seen it where I do, 3-4 treatments with a client and a client I've been working on for years. And suddenly we throw reflexology into the mix and like, oh my God, like, I don't know what you did, but oh my God, like I'm so much better. I'm like, cool. Yeah.
Even if it is a placebo effect,
I don't care. That's science?
Is it hurting them? No,
I love the
it's
placebo
not.
effect.
It's not. Just like after your live streaming day with Sue, her whole thing. I've been trying to implement more fascial work, sustained long fascial work, and I have a client where I was kind of doing, your suboccipital nucleus release there, and I sat there for 3 minutes, and I could feel. That's one of my favorite things. It's just feeling the tissue soften and relax, and you're just like, yes, let it go. Let it all go. And he got off the table and he's a big, like, burly guy. And he was like, I don't know what you did, but I felt like my head detached from my body and is floating and in a good way. And I was like, as long as it's a good way, that's fine. But your head is still attached. But like, even again, if that was a placebo effect, he walked out of my clinic so happy. I have a client, and this is one of my, like, why I'm in the niche I am of bringing mental health into the factor is he came in and he had recently lost his wife. He was lost and you could tell he was guard up, wall up, but also was going to break down at any second. And to me, he just looked like he felt like he was in pieces. And so he's like, but I have, shoulder issues, neck issues from my work. I said, okay, we're going to work on it, but I want to treat your full body. You need to feel whole again. And did the treatment, put on the music therapy soundtrack, and he came out of that crying and was like, this is the best I've felt since before my wife died. And that's when I was like, this is the niche, this is the world I need to be in for sure. Because again, if it was all placebo, he felt better and he was better leaving than he was coming in. And that's all that matters to me. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
And also, I'm glad you're taking on that niche and not me, because I don't think I have it in me anymore. I used to be described by my friends as like cold-hearted and emotionless. I think the minute somebody cries in front of me now, I'm like, okay, and I just break down as well. I can't work with people with like, not that I can't. I obviously have clients who have mental health concerns, but I don't think I could take that on all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think I would be in pieces.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but I think where it is that the fact that with those clients, I do share with them. I'm not secretive about the fact that I am, general anxiety and panic attack disorder. And I had one this week. She just came off of short-term leave. And I said, just so you know, I'm on whatever spectrum, however, I do deal and have seasons of mental health. And she literally just like, oh my God, okay.
Someone who gets it.
Yeah, she's like, you get it. I'm here. I'm home. I'm here. You're like, you've got me for life kind of thing. Because I was like, however you show up in whatever season you are in your life, that's how we'll deal. We'll have our ongoing things we're going to work with, but how you show up is how we'll work. And that's, today we're chatty and next week you're like, music off, I don't want to talk. Then that's what we're going to do. Because I truly, like, the brain is such a powerful thing, and it controls everything in our body. So let's start there. And then, the physical to work the mental and the mental to work the physical. So that's how I see it.
People when they come in, because they'll be like, oh, I have this neck pain, but then they go into how like their boss is being a dick and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, I see what I'm treating here. Do you know what I mean? Like you just, and like, I think that was something that I did like really early on is, I do the assessments, I do all of that, but I listen to like the words they're telling me and like read those like lines in between, right? Like you're coming in here because they come to an RMT, they want therapeutics, or they feel they have to have a problem. I don't know if anyone else feels that. They always feel like they have, I'm like, you don't have to have anything wrong with you to be here. Like you can be here and we can be working on other things or whatever. But they'd come in, they'd say all these things. I'm like, okay, so I'm definitely more of like a whole, like holistic, like, and so I definitely have clients who are just like, you just do whatever's that you do.
Those
and
magic
you'll
hands.
find the things and you'll do the stuff and I'm just going to leave here like better than I was when I came. And it's like, all right. And every once, like, even still after 11 years, when people just like do what you do, I kind of go, oh, like, what if I do it bad? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, can you just give me,
what do I do with my hand?
Can you just like give me a little like thing, or you know what I mean? But they're just like, my body better than I do. You know what I mean? Like you just do it, and like that's not something you'll find in a research paper. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I get to know these people after years and years and years. Like I have clients who've seen me for a decade.
Yeah.
And like I do know them. Do you know what I mean? Like they just have to be like, this thing and waving their hand is happening and I know what's going on, right? Like so like but there's no research paper saying like why I should know what that is know why like this technique works better than this one or whatever. Like it just
I feel like anyone that's so needing research to justify what they do, you're in the wrong fucking field.
Yeah.
Go to physio chiro.
You really weren't meant to be
or
in
maybe
this.
not even healthcare, because healthcare in general, like I don't know if anyone else knows this through like COVID, healthcare has no idea what they're doing 95% of the time. They're making it up.
How can you not notice that? And that's I have a specific person in mind. I'm not going to call this person out, but this person is very much like, listen to the experts, look at the studies. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you cannot post that when last week the expert said this week they're saying that. Like, I'm all for it, but can we also use our own brains? Like, can we remember that the experts are also humans? Like they're not these superhuman powers that know more than we do. They have a certain amount of education. They're trained to do research in a certain way, but they're wrong all the time. They change their mind all the time. So again, stop jumping on people who are saying, but this doesn't make sense to me because this number doesn't make sense over here. Like anytime somebody tries to go against a quote expert, they get attacked.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but can we hear them out? Like maybe, like, how do we know this person isn't actually the smartest person in the world and we're just telling them to shut up because the expert that was on CNN the other day said something different?
Yeah.
Like,
it's what my dad always says. They're an expert, but they're an expert in this
one
thing. And it's ironic because my brother is an expert in this one thing. He's doing his PhD in nanotechnology, so he's an expert in this.
Like actually this.
Actually, I think that's the way he keeps him grounded. But yeah, they're an expert. They're an expert in this one thing, and life isn't just this one thing. Or this job isn't just this one thing. So like, be a little bit more of a jack of all trades. That's what he calls me, the jack of all trades.
Massage therapy isn't just this one thing.
Yeah, it's just especially too, like, you know, I do my assessments, I do my background, but sometimes they're like, so what's going on? And I'm like, I also need to get my hands on you because these tell me things that I can't explain. Like somebody today, when I was like, you stay pretty hydrated, right? I can tell. And she's like, how the hell can you tell? And I said, you're not sticky. And I was like, no other person will understand except for an RMT that you're not sticky.
You're not sticky.
And also, like, your skin's not peeling up when I'm massaging you, and the lotions aren't just disappearing and the oils aren't disappearing. I'm like, I can't explain it. Like, I don't know how. And that also leads back to, like,
show me the evidence.
Yeah.
The show me the evidence. You know what? Clients don't care. Honestly, all the time. They'll be like, oh, why is it happening? I'm like, I have no idea. I don't know. If I followed you around 80 years, I would know.
Thank you.
If I followed you, I know you. If I followed you around for 48 hours, maybe a week, I might be able to tell you. But I have no idea.
I might be able to give you a hypothesis if I follow you around for 2 weeks.
But I don't know.
At this moment, no, I don't know. But you guys reminded me, there's this one client I have, and she's only been coming here for a couple of years. She's not, like, literally, I've only seen her since we've been in the space, which I just said has only been 2 years. And she comes in, and it's not like, just do your thing. I'll say to her, so what's going on today? What do we need to work on? She'll go, oh, you know. Like, literally, she just does this thing with her shoulders. Oh, you know. I'm like, all right, then. Let's get going.
Let's get on.
And what do you know, though?
What do you?
She's a woman of a certain age that has worked her entire life sitting in front of a desk. So she's got the same issues.
When you say woman of a certain age, that means old, right?
She's not young.
Okay.
Her son is probably your age.
Gotcha. That's polite for old. A woman of a certain age.
She's a woman of a certain age.
I didn't know that until right now.
And so she's got all of these, these issues with her elbow and her wrist and blah, blah, blah from her workstation. And it's always the same thing. And, I've recommended getting an ergonomic assessment. I've talked to her about the works. We've done all that. I give her home care exercises. But ultimately, she's been doing this for, like, she's probably past retirement age now. And she's been doing this same job for her entire career. And so it's all super chronic issues. And sure, she might do the home care, but like every other client, they do it when they feel like it. It's not consistent. And it's not like she's seeing me every day. She's seeing me, every couple of weeks because that's what she can fit into her life. And so when she comes in, yeah, sure, like we see progress, she gets better, but ultimately when she comes in and she says, oh, I know it's, it's all these things, it's her arm, it's her wrist, it's all the usual shit because she still lives her life. When she leaves here, she doesn't go home and just sit in a bubble after I've treated her and made her feel better. She goes back to life and her elbow gets fucked up again.
I have one of those. What's going on? Everything. Okay. All right.
Let's start
everything
working
it
on
is.
everything.
The works. Got it.
I don't know if you guys have seen this going back to treating, but like everyone's coming in. They're like, all the things that we had worked out before now aren't worked out. So we need to go back to all of that. And I'm like, but I had you in such a great place. My job was so easy for a while there. Like easy in that I just knew. And now it's like, why do we have to go back to this?
Oh yeah. Everybody came back broken.
Oh, so broken and like emotionally broken. I feel like part of my job now is to reintegrate humans back into society in like a very forceful way. Cause I haven't even I have clients who literally like, this is the first time I wear a mask. I'm like, oh, and cause I haven't left the house in 15 weeks. I'm like, oh, and you chose massage to reintegrate yourself back in. Like you haven't seen another human being other than your spouse for like 4 months and you want me to put my arms and hands and elbows all over your body after I just massaged 5 other human beings, right? Like you're really pushing your envelope like with that one, but they come in, they're like, yes, this is
that's
how I'd like
when
to do it.
You know they're desperate, man. I had a client come in. It was actually a new client. I wasn't planning on taking any new clients for the first little while. He only just came in like a few days ago, but he called me and we did the whole pre-screen over the phone and blah 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 blah. He told me where he got his number. It was a referral. And so anyway, I booked him to come in and he came in. He said, I'm going to be honest with you. I would not be here if I didn't think I needed you. I'm in agony. I really messed something up. I need you. He's like, but I'm also scared of getting COVID. Yeah. And I was like, okay, don't worry. This, I will do things in whatever way you're comfortable, and anyway, everything went fine. But he right away said to me, if I didn't need you, I wouldn't be here. I'm scared of getting COVID. Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. Imagine on top of everything else that's going on, now you have this looming fear over you every time you leave your house.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a client who I've seen for a long time. He's been coming to me for years and he came in. I could see it in him. I was like, are you sure you're okay to be here? Right? Are you sure you want to get on that table? He's like, yep. And then he told me after the treatment, when he was lying down, I was washing my hands, he was starting to have an anxiety attack. He's like, maybe I just get up and leave and she won't even see I'm gone. Like, maybe I just go. And I was like, why did you stay? He's like, because I needed it so bad, Nicole. He fell asleep on the table. I was very proud. I got him from like anxiety attack to sleeping on the table in an hour. But I don't think I actually physically did anything to his body. It was simply just having another human being like touch him and realize you're in a safe place. Like, I'm doing all the things I can to keep you safe. That was all he needed. He just needed someone to show him it's like okay to breathe air when you're around other humans. Yeah. So it was like, oh my gosh. Like, I went home being like, I don't think I can do this. I'm like, I'm pregnant. I'm out there like touching people and everyone's like, how are you doing this? I'm like, man, it is what it is. Like, I'm not fragile. It's okay.
Yeah. To echo that, I just realized, I think this week is, and by this week, I just started today for this week. I haven't used my forearms or elbows on anybody, and as a massage therapist you get what level I'm kind of working in, because everybody just needed to be brought down from this high anxiety level first. Like I said, you got to get that anxiety down before, otherwise the muscles aren't going to let me do anything to
I didn't think I had anxiety. Well, that's a lie, because on some episodes of like, I even catch myself acting crazy, but I didn't think that I was like afraid of being out in public and whatever. Like I thought, I'm ready to go back to work, so I started up second week of June. I was like, okay, I think, I took from the date we got the email, I said, okay, I will open in 2 weeks. Yeah. I need that time to like prepare myself and whatever. I'll open in 2 weeks. And by the end of the first week, I was in agony. And it hit me that I was only using my hands. And I was like, am I doing that to keep distance? Like, am I, you know what I mean? I realized like, I was probably like so stiff and so tense. But by the end of the first week, Mark had to massage my forearms like in the middle of the night. I'm like, I'm dying. Yeah. I'm in so much pain because I was only using my hands. I've relaxed a little bit since then. But that first week back, whew, that was rough.
I'm just emotionally exhausted. Yeah. I'm done with everybody's like emotions right now. I can't take on anymore. I'm already so hormonal. Like, I don't know. Like, I am halfway to being done having a baby, and I'm like, I can't handle like another person's like emotion. I have a crazy toddler at home. I'm growing another person. Like, I don't care about your whatever. Like, just go to the grocery store. Like, what is the problem? I'm over it. But
I think that was my family was
like, I'm done.
My family was so worried with my anxiety about this, and like kept checking in on me. Like, how are you doing? Are you freaking out? And I'm like, this has caused me, I hate to say it, less anxiety than going down to Toronto to watch a hockey game. It's weird to say, but because for me, this made sense. I understood it. Okay, it's a virus. I understood the science. I understand that. Okay, we just have to keep distance. I'll keep distance. We got technology to talk to family, blah, blah, blah. But for me, like something like that, I don't have control over
the situation.
The situation. It's chaotic. If something bad happened, it's just a free for all, and people get like. To me, this made more sense.
I understand you 100%. Yeah. My anxiety is always about feeling out of control. Yeah. I had the worst postpartum anxiety after my second child, and a big thing that helped me was just. I became a little bit of a control freak. A little bit. Whatever I could control had to be controlled, because that was the only thing to keep me focused. And, like my friends kind of joke about it. Like, I can be a little bit over the top when it comes to cleaning and organizing and whatever. But if when I start cleaning, that I'm not okay. Like, I'm anxious and about something, and I need to clean.
That's me.
And I need to,
organize and control it.
My husband came home to watch me organizing soup cans in the cupboard because he told me he needed to go to Costco. And that's when I realized I had a bit of an issue with, like, I had a problem. He literally came home and was like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, these cans are weird. And he's like, what are you
You're facing the wrong way.
And he's just like, when did this start? I'm like, 2 hours ago, like when I told you we needed to go to Costco. I'm like, I hate that place. He's like, yeah, so much. You're reorganizing soup. I'm like, I can't. And I had that after I had my son. Literally, I'd be like, his bedtime is this. I need to be home for this. I need to have like these 6 bottles prep. Like, it was like regimented. My husband's like, you're losing your mind. I was just like, I know, but like, just hang with me for a hot second. Like, this is new. Like, I don't know what I'm doing here. But it's been good since then. Massage is my happy place. I don't know what it is. I go in there and maybe I'm able to just like back all the stuff I have at home, like at the door, and I come in and I'm like, people come in like, hi, and like big smile, big face. Like, I'm here to help you. My shit doesn't matter. Yeah. Let's focus on all the weird stuff that's going on with you. And I can just feel good about that I'm not alone in this boat that's sinking. So
yeah. Well, that's what happened last year. I know we keep going off on tangents, but beginning of July last year, we lost 4 family members in 10 days. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So a great grandmother, an uncle, a family pet, but She'd been around for
But
14
still,
years.
yeah.
and my grandma. And like I was still showing up to work other than the funeral days, but I only work 3 days a week, right? And some people showed up that I had kind of a relationship with. They kind of knew me. So it would be like, just so you know, this is going on in my life. Because again, I'm upfront. If it was a stranger and I felt fine, I probably wouldn't have said anything. But I'm like, just so you know. And they're like, why are you here? I'm like, because this is my happy zone. This is actually bringing me comfort.
Yeah.
I feel good in this space, and helping me, caring for you is helping me.
Yep.
So I need to be here. Yeah. And even that grandma, I don't know if I told you, I carry around some of her last words my uncle wrote down on a piece of paper, and she was an energy healer. A lot of the family were kind of like, she's crazy, don't listen to her.
Crystals
yeah, she gave us a crystal. And I'm not a person that's like, let me hold this crystal and it's going to give me its energy. I'm not but I'm like, it's pretty to look at. So, and somebody else might feel better seeing it, right? But I have a piece of paper that has basically some of her last words, and it's Heather needs to learn the energy. She needs to learn it now. And so I keep it with me, because to me, I'm like, that to me speaks to my massage and to keep going down the path I'm going. But like, this clinic, like you say, there's some mornings I wake up and I've just got that butterfly stomach, and I walk in the clinic and I'm like, it's all gone. Yeah. Let me just do what I'm here to do and help others and treat others and care for others, because clearly that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah. So know your podcast helps with that space, because you're always being played
in that space.
Oh, I like that. Well, it's funny. We're very different on that front. I'm very much like you, Heather, and you, Nicole. Like I feel like for me, when I've got a lot of shit going on, I would just rather come to work. I just want to come to work and do what I got to do, and like you said, focus on somebody else. And I can almost like literally forget about everything that's going on. You know, I'm in the treatment room with my clients and I'm hearing about their life, and I forget what's going on in my own life. And I feel you're quite the opposite. When you've got personal shit going on, you need to step back from work for a little bit, and you need to sit with yourself. And
I can't hide shit. I can't do that. It doesn't work for me at all. Like, it's impossible. You'll know if I'm upset. You'll know if something's wrong with me right away.
Maybe it's a guy thing. Yeah. My husband's that way. They have to like recluse to their cave to like figure out their stuff, or I can just be like, we're good. Let's
I can't do that.
I remember us having a very, very stressful evening one time, and the next morning we were both supposed to get up and go to work. I got up, I showered, I went to work.
Not me.
And I talked to him midday, and I was like, where are you?
Probably in the parking lot at work, and I never went in.
He never went in. He canceled all his clients that day, and I said, what are you doing? And he's like, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you just go and pretend everything's fine. I'm like, I'm not pretending everything's fine. I'm just not thinking about what's not fine, and I'm focusing on something else.
Yeah.
And for me, it just, I just had to keep going and dealing with my day. And
do you see how I was drunk from fucking spring to the following New Year?
Maybe that's back to the control thing, because then again, you're in a space and you can control that space.
Yeah.
Whereas most times we're most stressed because we can't control.
If I'm at home, I can't control. That stuff that's happening. Like that's probably it. I can control, and we're caretakers. We really are.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
I learned through having children that I've got a slight control problem, but it's fine. It's fine.
It comes out full force when you have kids.
Yeah.
Well, you're also placed in control of another human.
Yes.
Like, they literally handed me a baby and were like, you now make all the decisions of another person. I'm like, what? I am not qualified for the job.
Even though I'm only a dog mom, I do feel that.
Is there anything else on your list of questions for us?
I think I've hit all the questions. How about you?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
My favorite word. I need to work on that.
Yeah.
I say absolutely. If you ever listen to like Cole, I just go absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
I do true a lot. True.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to go home and do a drinking game to absolutely and true.
There you go.
I get true, you get absolutely.
Yeah, I'm in.
It's there. It's definitely there. And I've tried. It doesn't work. I can't not.
Yeah.
It's my word.
That's
it was good. This was fun.
Yeah. Thanks again for joining us.
This was super fun. Thanks, guys.
I know.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Massage Therapy Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it.
If you have any questions, drop us a line on Instagram at the.mtp. You can share this episode with your friends, family, and colleagues by posting a screenshot of the episode to your stories and tag us.
Be sure you are subscribed wherever you listen to your podcast so you can hear more episodes.
If you would like, please leave us a review and comment where you can. We would love to hear from you.
We'll talk to you next time. Be kind, be well.